some time ago, if we ask people that we want to hold conference like this in a Zoom, people will say, come to my office, or let's take a Sheraton hotels. But today is a different ballgame, as we are currently seeing. This also translates to other areas, including projects where designs are viewed online, where bill of quantities are sent and reviewed, where contracts are even signed between countries of the world. As we speak, on Thursday, a mega billion-dollar project will be commissioned in Bayelsa State, the local content office, virtually, which means technology has come to transform the way we do things. Let me go on to introduce our speaker. First is the president of Koren, Engineer Ali Rabiu. He is the current president of Koren, who has put in a lot of time in private practice and has built capacity around the engineering practice in Nigeria. And we believe if he's with us now, it's just acknowledged, and let us believe that you are with us, because the last conversation we had on engineering, we were able to extra define the role of engineering and the code of ethics and practice. A lot of questions were asked and people were quite excited. Now, I have just been told that Engineer Ali Rabiu, the president of Koren, is represented by Professor Uche. Professor Uche, can you just acknowledge that you're here with us?
Okay.
Thank
you very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The other speaker this morning is the immediate past president of Koren, who also brought to that particular body some certain and unprecedented reforms that ensures today engineers are able to practice with integrity, with their head high. Engineer Kashim Ali, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Engineer Kashim Ali, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Kenneth.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have today a very distinguished speaker, a man of many parts, and some of us try to wonder how he combined this profession along with so many other things that he's currently doing. Apart from being an engineer of repute, he's also a Royal Highness. His Royal Highness Engineer Otis Oliver Ayenji, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, and the chairman, chief executive of Otis Engineering, one of our partners for this event today. Engineer Otis, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all the speakers and participants.
Thank you, sir. Now, someone who is also going to speak today is actually very busy. He's a busy man. And since he became the president of NSC, he has decided to be living in different states of Nigeria to be sure that the local body, the branches, are also working. He has relocated to all the 36 states of Nigeria to be able to administer NSC firsthand as to how the different branches are progressing in different states. I'm sure that if it's not because of COVID-19, I'm sure he will have also gone to see what's happening in the UK and in the United States. And I believe that he's also doing that virtually. Engineer Mohammed Babagana, President of NSC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. We also have today a past president of CORE, past president of ACEN, chairman, chief executive of COA Consultants, a very senior practitioner in this industry that has mentored quite a number of people, including some of us from the journalism aspect of this industry, guiding us through the ways and ensuring that we do the reportage in the best way possible. I'm talking about Engineer Ogumbayo. Engineer Ogumbayo, I'm sure he is with us. So you can unmute Engineer Ogumbayo and continue to admit people in because people are joining us. Engineer Ogumbayo, thank you very much. We are so delighted that we're able to drag you out of so many of the busy things that are going on.
So we are not.
Nobody is busy. Private life.
Nobody is busy these days. We are all sitting at home waiting for something to happen.
Except by the grace of God, it's happening.
Amen. Except perhaps the president of NSC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me just roll out our partners to make this conversation possible. We want to first of all thank CORE for actually allowing us to partner with us and also to make this conversation possible. The Nigerian Society of Engineers, we want to also thank you. Mr. President is here. Daveson Engineering, Engineer Uchenna, I'm sure he is with us. And we want to thank you very much. You must have seen the commercial rolling earlier on. Daveson Engineering is a top player in the engineering sector in Nigeria. Otis Engineering, Engineer Otis, we want to thank you for allowing Otis Engineering to partner with us on this. And Engineer Otis is going to be speaking on the master class session. We have just come to realize that the only way we can make meaning of all this visual conversation is to ensure that we take examples, case studies, and look at how companies are growing and developing. And to that extent, in the masterclass session, Engineer Otis is going to share with us how Otis Engineering was able to take 10 power projects from beginning to the end as consultant and project manager in Nigeria. We believe we can all do it. We also want to thank CDK. CDK is one of our partners, and we are so delighted that we thank you for CDK for finding the time to be very, very available. And you will also be talking about what you are bringing to the table. Green Earth, thank you very much. We truly appreciate the partnership, and we believe all is going to be well. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19, we will get to the promised land. without wasting so much time, let's lay the background to the engineering practice, as it were. Engineering practice. Before we start talking about the opportunities and be able to see what is available in Nigeria, especially at this point. I think the best thing to do is to kickstart this conversation by inviting Professor Uche to spend the next 5-10 minutes to tell us what Current is doing to support the industry and to ensure engineers practice with sound and ethical standards. Professor Uche, you have the floor.
Thank you, the moderator. Thank you, presidents that are full here, the president of NSC, past president of NSC, and Current, seniors that are actually watching or participating in this discussion. Let me take apology on behalf of the current president of Current, Ali, unavoidably absent, and have mandated me to speak actually. And from the angle, he presented a short kind of paper to kind of create the eagerness to discuss issues that relates to the topic, that is emerging opportunities in engineering practice and technology during this digital transformation era. Actually, we all know that Current is a regulatory body, and all his mandate is to provide an enabling environment, conducive environment in which engineering ought to be practiced in Nigeria, keeping kind of, because in the technology you have a step out for a day, definitely you become obsolete. And there's need for us to keep on, creating awareness on the new development, emerging technologies in engineering. So in the paper he has here, he wanted to remind actually the topic and the importance of the topic within this period, given on what have happened in the recent period, talking about the pandemic that have ravaged the world for a number of months now and still counting. So the topic, he says, is pertinent to first of all re-establish the definition of what engineering is all about, and its discipline in ensuring that man, is mankind is taken care of. You will agree with me that there are 7 basic areas in this transformation, 7 basic areas in this digital transformation world, and of which, if the practice of engineering in Nigeria is keyed into, we will not be left behind. And that is to say, you can talk about human-machine interface. Human-machine interface, one of the things that, Current is in synergy, creating awareness for engineers to run into. In this human-machine interface, you have social network, wearable devices, AR, VR capability, multimodal interaction, dialogue system. The second point is connectivity and computing, where you have mobile internet, modeling, simulation, visualization, cloud computing, apps platforms, digital reforms. Then you have analytics and intelligence, big data, learning, knowledge-based system, numerical system. Then when you come to the fourth, you have digital physical transformation that leads to production, 3D printing, photonics, new machine, architecture, mechatronics. Then you have what we call production philosophies that have to talk about new materials, recycled materials, and new models. Then the sixth one is advanced materials. What are we doing in advanced work where you have new innovative materials, high value ceramics, materials that we can develop inwardly here. Okay, we have also advanced production as the last. So what are we talking about? When we talk about digital transformation and the position of the person that is regarded as the moderator in the practice of engineering in Nigeria, that is correct. So digital transformation in particular is data driven and includes such things as automation, machine learning, high performance computing, etc. to deliver maximum business impact. On the other hand, digitization is a process of converting analog information into digital format. The materials to be converted could be letters, manuscripts, books, photographs, maps, etc. So the goal of digitization is to improve access to materials. To that end, most digital data based on internet. In order for the materials to be digitized, it must be converted using a method to capture the material digitally, scanning, digital photography, digital recording, without altering the information that the material contains. That means that digital representation have key areas: business model, domain, culture, and so we can look at what is happening even from the beginning. We normally say that science, engineering, technology, and innovation have influenced man, society, and the development since the creation of man. And there is no single structure on earth that is man-made, which is not tied to engineering. Things we have always. So in the area, we'll be talking about science, engineering, and technology. Thank God I am addressing a cream of the law of engineers. So there is no need going to begin to weigh you down by defining what engineering is, what science is, or what technology is. But permit me to say that technology that is the improved way of doing things by application of scientific and engineering knowledge creates more wealth and finds solutions to numerous human problems. We normally say, without science, engineering, technology, and innovation, the pace of development of human race to bronze age, from bronze age to iron age, from iron age to jet age, industrial age, energy age, steam age, technology age, computer age, and the age we are now is age of artificial intelligence. And that is what digital transformation creates or is all about. How will you, as engineers, come in? So from the age presentation, you find out that civilization have always been centered on two of development. And since it's centered on tool of development, we are talking about engineering. So we are the best people that create this tool, use this tool in our function, and we are best to read from the tool better. So in this digital age, where we are thinking that we are not in forefront like the advanced countries, there are opportunities that are abound. Opportunities that a typical engineer that is practicing in Nigeria can wade into and create a kind of wealth, not only for himself, but for our teeming young engineers. Digital transformation is not for the faint heart. The unfortunate reality is that you can put in much effort, and the transformation progresses in a general programs in general may come to a failure. So a portion in any of the areas that or the four interrelated domains in digital transformation can weigh down whatever we have in practice of engineering. And what are the four domain areas is technology, the new way of doing things. Technology, the Internet of Things, the blockchain, the data, legs, artificial intelligence, all are bordered in technology. Data processing. Now we have a lot of data that we need to, think of a better way. I have heard you talking about now the issue of Zoom have created an avenue where we can easily sign contract of billions of dollars staying from somewhere in US, somebody in Nigeria, somebody in UK, and these are the things that the digital transformation have provided. Data processing, organizational change or capabilities, talks about leadership, team play, work environment. These things, if you don't have it, if some companies don't have current IT specialists that are taking charge, some are still in the old model, analog. Some of the tactics, those who are practicing engineering, they can't even update codes and standards. They are still using old code and standards. And there's need for us to up our game and think right, using capability, create IT departments. So they say technology is the engine of digital transformation. While data is the fuel. Process is the guidance system. Organization change capability is the landing gear. So you need all these four important important factors to actually benefit from this era. Opportunities for our engineer. We have to think. This is time for us to rethink and retool everything to remain relevant in the engineering space. Time for us to rethink and retool to remain relevant in the engineering space. It's a period where we have to embrace technologies and rapidly transform engineering practices in all ramifications. We need to be able to participate in global community in engineering activities that transform what, where, and how products are designed, how products are manufactured, how products are assembled, how products are distributed, how products are serviced after use, or even how products are discarded or even recycled. So we need to talk about material innovation in this current is what actually the age is throwing to us. And there's no way we can say we are not part of the world. And we will depend on what others are bringing. But because we need to have the infrastructure. We have some teething problems. And I want to say on behalf of the president that Koren is well able to go in synergy with associations, with private individuals, companies, to create these opportunities for our teeming young engineers so that they can easily be able to actually participate in the world space. Korea have gone into alliance. I know that Vice President Ali will be talking about alliances that Korea have had in order to make engineers that are registered or accredited in Nigeria to be accepted world over. This is part of what Korea is doing to make sure that Nigeria engineer is mobile, be able to participate in the digital world and create. We are resourceful. Most of our young ones are resourceful. We need to give them that opportunity and privilege to participate in the world space. Not only for foreigners like Indians taking our space and making us to look like we are not from this world. So I want to stop here for now and maybe listen to other presenters. So thank you, Mr. Moderator.
That is quite an excellent way to start, because what you have told us are some of the opportunities that are available and that have been brought by digital transformation. And you've talked about from the business perspective of it, where the process, model, culture, and organization and structure can actually take a lead if we do it right. So it's a very good way to start, and I'm sure that all the participants have gotten something, are taking note. Let me now go to the immediate past president of Koren, Engineer Kashim Ali, who I'm sure left behind a legacy that would make engineers to today be able to practice transformationally, so that eventually when the pandemic came, people were able to adapt as quickly as possible, especially with the opportunities that it brought. Thank you. Engineer Ali, please.
Thank you very much, Ken. Well, I'd like to thank you again for your choice of topic. The opportunity. You are looking at the side, because what the world is facing today are huge challenges. For instance, the attributes of that. Beyond that, also we have population explosion. It is estimated that the population of the world will go to about 10 billion by 2050. Now, we have to look at the surface of the earth. The structure itself can even handle the weight that we generated by this population growth. Those are challenges. Would there be enough space for humans to live? Or are we going to be overcrowded animals? Because we'll now be competing with animals. Because at the time that we are doing greening and asking that animals be allowed to multiply, where would the space be for us? In Nigeria, for instance, we already have a population explosion in our cities, and a lot of these are happening. So now, but the sunny side of it, that what opportunities come from these, and a lot of them do come. For instance, engineering is going to lose its structure. You know, at the beginning, engineering started in the 15th century. When it started, it was military engineering, which was also mechanical. And it evolved to solve complex societal problems to what it is now. But even what we have now have to also split. If you look at what the world is turning into. Let's even look at urban transportation. You know, we've been investing a lot of resources in developing roads and highways. But with unmanned vehicles, what will be the fate of those highways and roads? Would we still need them in future? So what happened to the highway engineers? What happened to the civil engineers? What happened to the structural engineers? So those are also challenges that will come with that. Then you now have the issue of nanotechnology, and like I was also saying, we are in information technology, we have bioengineering, leading to transgenic food. Because if we are going to have that population, one of the first things that we need, apart from space to exist, will be food. And the organic food that, for instance, where I used to in this place, will no longer be, those kind of agricultural processes will no longer be sustainable. We have to look at a more advanced food that are safe, if not even safer than organic food. So we have to look at transgenic food. We have to look and improve on how to protect the privacy of individuals, because we'll be so choked up that you won't have privacy again. So we have to develop the technology for maintaining people's privacy. We have to also talk about how do energy, new energy, you have to talk about renewable energy. But you have to also look at the nuclear, the non, the one non-war nuclear energy. You need it because those are the things that can be accommodated with these small species. So when I was trying to understand this topic, I had so many things coming to my head. So many things. Where will I start from? And how much time do I have? So I tried to advise myself. Let me look at what they are doing in America, for instance. That is, the most advanced world, advanced country so far. And the National Academy of Engineering came out with 14 grand challenges that they are posing to engineering in this century. One of them is making solar power economical. As you know, solar power today, if you want to have a solar farm that will power, for instance, a small city, even villages, effectively, you need to have a large space of land. So the engineer has to think about how can you now make more, maybe smaller panels that will be more efficient. We need to do that. We have to look at providing energy from fusion, and that is, in fact, another advanced way of using nuclear now. Of course, you can see, look at what happened now. What they have in Lebanon is for phosphate fertilizer. Look at the kind of explosion that, imagine if it was, well, those things also contribute to nuclear, use them for nuclear energy also. So that is how explosive they are. So you need to do that. But a lot of work is going on. Right now, in the United Arab Emirates, there's a plant that is being constructed, nuclear plant. Even though they have oil, they are leaving fossil fuel. They want to go into nuclear energy. In 2009, Kuwait gave the Kuwait Society of Engineers $150 million to invite scholars from anywhere in the world to sit down and discuss alternative energy, because the future of petroleum based power supply is going out. So now the question again, what happens to petroleum engineers? What happens to chemical engineers? So those are issues. You have to look at all those. Then they say developing carbon sequential sequestration methods. You have to do manage the nitrogen cycle. We have to see how to provide access to clean water, because it's okay in rural water that was naturally complicated. That is why, for instance, some countries, I give an example. If Egypt, the first time you in Cairo, don't drink from the tap. You know that the water is unsafe. The water is safe, but it will cause you discomfort if you are not used to it. So there now has to be, we have to see about how do we create universal water. So you now have to drink. When you don't drink water for 40 days, you are dead. So the water has to be in abundance to handle the population. You have to talk about restoring and improving urban infrastructure, because most infrastructure have large plans. Even advanced countries, you see their infrastructure failing, had a major outage in the United States, and many others are happening quietly. Then you have to look at advancing health informatics, and then also do better engineering, better medicine. Biotechnical engineering is complex. It's providing better solution to healthcare, because today we mention technology age. You can monitor yourself such that you will not even need to take any pills. You could monitor your body on a continuous real time, and such a way that you can control some of people and help. You need to do that. Then reverse engineering the brain. So you are going to now begin to look at even the brain to make the brain work better, so that we can work more optimally. And then even in old age, you are still able to have your faculty intact to contribute to the development of the world. So those are the things that the engineering opportunities that come. We also preventing nuclear terror, securing the cyberspace. That now is global security, and then enhancing virtual reality, advancing personalized learning, and engineering the tools of scientific discovery. Now, all these are new opportunities for the engineer, because if we what happens to the old knowledge? The old knowledge is gradually becoming obsolete. I recall, I was at the conference some years back where we were talking about young children, and we were talking about some people will say that my child is very serious, he takes his studies seriously, he has no time for social media, he hasn't got a Facebook account, no WhatsApp, nothing. But there are about 100 other social media platforms that are available that the older generation are not even aware of. And that is where this are. So children are a lot more advanced than we are. And so when they find that you are a pricky father that might like to monitor them, they move from whatever platform you are to another platform that is totally different. And you may not even understand, let alone come on such platform, and they will do whatever they want to do there. What that means is that there's need for continuous learning. We need to change, not to begin to advance the knowledge that we have now. So opportunities are now there for new learning for those who can. If you cannot, then you are also, because the engineering program prepares you, because the engineering practice is more complex than we even see it, because engineering practice gives opportunity to do everything: banking, human resource management, fiscal resource management. So you could also shift and allow those who can proceed. So these are the new opportunities that we have left. Even simple basic things like arbitration. And those who can with new learning can move to the that have not. So we can, if you look at today around the world, I not only Philip was then MD of UBA, and he told me in their headquarters they had 200 engineers in the UBA at that time. I don't know his second name, but his Philip, his first name. He took over from Elumelu. He had 200 engineers at that time from one university. Not just he had 200 engineers for Futo. So that is how much also. So these are opportunities that we have left out. People can go into those ones. But in core engineering practice, a lot of learning is required, because the challenges that have been presented to us, yes, those are the ones in the US, but they apply to us because improvement in the quality of 20 minutes I have. With that, I think I'll let it stop now. Maybe I will be able to talk again after I go have talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, what you've laid down for us is the opportunities that abound within the engineering practice and the profession. And if I may summarize that to mean that the ability to develop software for modern media apps, webs, clouds, and connect them to electronics that the same developer has designed exists more now than from the 5 years ago. This is because technology isn't static and therefore providing opportunity. So engineers must continue to think at all times. And that's why somebody who develops, Windows 1 will develop Windows 2, Windows 3, Windows 4, and it keeps going on. So which means it is, if it is anything, it is moving faster than ever. And we need to move with the time. Before I call the next speaker, let me acknowledge some of our very important participants today, especially from the senior engineers. Engineer Emeka Eze, past president of NSC, we recognize you. Thank you very much. I also want to recognize Engineer Kunle Adebayo. And if you know, Engineer Emeka Eze was in charge of procurement. He was the DG, the Bureau of Public Procurement, and that was where he retired. And also a past president of NSC. Engineer Kunle Adebayo is of Arab. Engineer Williams Mobolaji was a former president of FOSI, Federation of Engineering in Nigeria. Engineer Olusegun Adeyemon he's also with us. Engineer Mrs. Bosede Oyekunle, she's with us. We have Engineer Mrs. Harriet Chimeze, the MD of Green Earth Consulting Limited, one of our sponsors today. We also have Engineer Mrs. Joanna Maduka, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and a past president of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering. And we want to recognize your presence, ma'am, because you did very well at the Academy as the first female president of the Academy. We also have Mr. Bimbola Onigunde of Corporate Communication of CDK, one of our partners for today. Engineer Nkena Ubosi, Managing Director of Daisy Nigeria Limited, and one of our sponsors. We also have Engineer Fumilayo Kadiri. I will continue to recognize a couple of our engineers that are here today because we are talking about opportunities in engineering practice amid technology and digital transformation. We will come to the master class in a few minutes after this conversation. I would like to invite Engineer Kunle Adebayo, who is, Kunle Ogunbayo, I'm sorry, sir. Engineer Kunle Ogunbayo, a former president of Koren, former president of AKEN, and chairman of COA Consultant. Engineer Ogunbayo says we are not doing anything at this period, but I want to believe that some projects are still ongoing, either in the offshore oil and gas or in the offshore. So that means that we are getting back to our normal lives. Thank you very much. You can speak to the topic, sir.
Thank you very much. Is it possible for me to share my slides?
Yes, sir.
Let me make it go faster.
Yes,
so if you can please enable that, then it gives me a bit more. Anyway, but before that happens, I'm going to start by looking back to the beginning of the year, saying that if anybody had said, hey, this thing is going to, that we are going to have a situation where this pandemic is going to take over the whole world, that person would have had to have been a pessimistic man or woman. But the truth is, nobody thought it would get this bad. But as of 2 days ago, there have been 19.2 million people who have been infected. Indeed, as of today, it's over 20 million. Nigeria will have 44,000. The total number of deaths is now about 720,000. Nigeria is just slightly under 1,000. But a lot of people have also recovered, 12.2 million. In Nigeria, 32,000. So it's not as grievous as we thought they would be. Okay, so some people say the figures from the NCDC are not that accurate, but WHO has actually said that perhaps one of the reasons is because we learned contact tracing, isolation technique, and resource mobilization during the Ebola pandemic. So we've been able to do things slightly better than, say, the US, where there's absolutely or almost no contact tracing, or in the UK, where it's not that bad. But the truth is, everybody has been affected. The whole world economy has been affected. So the question is, how can the engineering industry benefit from the present situation using our existing knowledge and skills in what is now called the new normal? Somebody said, now nobody's actually sure who said it anymore, but what it says is that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. What it means is that we must always learn from a crisis. So as engineers or practitioners in the industry, we already have the tools that we can use. But nothing happens by accident. Unless we put these skills to use and we train ourselves so that we become not only users, but providers of digital technology, we are not learning from the crisis. We all know that technology is a great enabler. It allows people to do things. And part of the training that we ourselves will need to do is to say first from our offices, how do we integrate this available technology into our business? The average age of the people here is probably about 50 or between 50 and 60. But none of us is too old to learn. And in learning, we not only teach ourselves, but our staff. The way we used to do business has changed. So it is no longer business as usual. Businesses have to transform. One of the first things that happened during this pandemic is that working from home is no longer such an outlandish idea. It is effective. And I hope that Otis will touch on this when he's doing the masterclass. But what we have found is that the majority of our engineers can work from home, given the right tools. So if you give everybody who can work from home the additional cost of data and generator for their fuel for their generator, they will produce. And that is what we have found. So, what are the opportunities that have presented themselves? The most obvious, the banks have been able to quickly adapt to change. The whole world has had to learn new ways of doing business, just as we are doing now. It would have been difficult to gather 60 people together at the Sheraton Hotel in Lagos, but we are doing that here today. Even manufacturers, industries who have gone down now have to say, hey, what can we do to reduce our cost of production? There will be ways of reducing energy consumption and increasing product quality. One of the areas that have suffered the most is the travel industry, but actually the hospitality industry. But what it means is that there will be more use of what we're doing now. So those engineers or practitioners who are able to retool their own businesses and help others to retool will benefit. And as we all know, the education industry has suffered greatly. So it's very unlikely that things will revert to what they used to be. The days of 120 students in a classroom are gone. I'm told that although the schools have been asked to reopen, there are many students who have not gone back to school. Indeed, in a place like Israel, where they reopened the schools, after about 2 or 3 weeks, they had to shut down again because the timing of reopening was correct. So there are there are going to be many, many opportunities to do things differently. So our businesses have suffered an upheaval. So what do we do so that we benefit from this new way of doing things? Number one, is there any scope for improvement in what we do? We have got to go back to our own business methods and ask ourselves, is what we are doing the right way? I'll give an example. If you are wanting to employ a new staff in the old days, what you would do would be that you will look for somebody who lives within travel distance of the office. What modern technology has shown is that perhaps that may no longer be a prime consideration. Outside of your immediate locality, who says you can't do it anymore? Perhaps to employ the person, he works from outside of your environment, but maybe once for briefing and just to see other people face to face. So what that means is that we must start planning now, not after the pandemic has subsided. What's happened to my... Be prepared. There will be new competitors. These are people who are starting fresh. So they will take, rather than think back of how they used to do things, they will say to themselves, how do we do things now? And they are the ones who will be the competition for those people who are already in business. For me, the biggest challenge that we'll all have is our corporate governance. If we do not, corporate governance is key. Many engineering people do not believe in investing in learning how to give confidence to their clients by simple things like being registered with Current. Luckily, the environment says that if you're not registered with Current, you will not get a job, and many more people are asking for it. But it's about those simple things that we need to do so that we do not fall foul of statutory regulations. There was a time when people used to go out to buy fake copies of AutoCAD. But nobody does that anymore, I hope. So my take is this, that there are opportunities out there. We all need to take a step back and say, how do we benefit? And once we're able to benefit, we then prepare our businesses so that we can also, when this whole thing is over, we do not go back to business as usual, but we go back to things go on from here. So I say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That's a very, very thought-provoking conversation. You mentioned some keywords that are quite important in corporate organization. Corporate governance. Without a very sound corporate governance, organizations may not be able to thrive. Investment in human capital development, which actually will allow newcomers to embrace technology and contribute efficiently to it, and then we can take advantage of those opportunities. And you mentioned the issue of business plan side, scientifically. Business plan. In other words, if you are running an organization, what is the business plan? Including also something that I saw is embedded in that is vision and mission. Where do we want to go with this opportunity that abound? And what kind of things do we have in our corporate bodies? Very, very thought-provoking, sir. We truly appreciate that. Let me acknowledge the presence of some other personalities that are here with us. Engineer Dr. Kolawole, thank you very much for joining us today. Engineer N.P. Ugochukwu, we want to appreciate you. Mrs. Nana Ansah, she's joining us from the United States of America, is one of our partners from Green Earth Consulting. We will go to the masterclass before coming to the NSC president. because he's going to talk to us as to how he's been engaging. Because apart from registering with Current, you also become NSE member, and then in the process, you are out there to go and prosper. And in the process of prospering, you also have some deals to do, and also you must come back to NSE to see how you're doing. But before we go for the masterclass, I would like to roll some commercials to be able to allow us to know that some Nigerian companies are doing Nigeria proud. First, we are going to see the commercial, or a show reel of what Jason Engineering has been doing in Nigeria, especially within the electrical sphere. We're also going to see what Otis Engineering firm stands for, and then CDK. These are Nigerian enterprises. And once we finish watching that, let's take note, and then we can go to Engineer Otis to do the masterclass, talk about some of the experiences and the opportunities that are bound in the Nigeria corporate world. And most importantly, let me acknowledge that since we have Engineer Eze here, we will also be inviting him to talk about procurement, which could be a bottleneck. We'll take it very in full cycle next time, but however, he will lend his voice to how people can access these particular opportunities. Now, my IT guys will roll the commercials and let us see what these companies are doing.
Nigeria Limited is an electrical and mechanical engineering firm with over 30 years experience, specializing in the supply, installation and maintenance of power system components as well as air conditioning and plumbing. We are a fully indigenous company incorporated under the Nigerian Companies Law to carry out the business of electrical and mechanical engineering and contracting. Over the years, we have been able to establish ourselves as a firm of professionals providing specialized quality services at competitive prices in both the fields of electrical and mechanical engineering. Our objective is to deliver on projects leveraging best hands and experiences in the industry, guided by our vision to be the reference point for quality electrical and mechanical contracting practices in Africa. We are members of the Licensed Electrical Contractors Association of Nigeria, LECAN category, and have a staff strength of over 60 permanent staff made up of senior and junior technical staff, most of who have an average of 20 years experience in the various fields of electrical and mechanical engineering, who are constantly engaged and trained to keep them up to date with best practices in the industry. We pride ourselves with being able to add value to every project we're privileged to be a part of. We have been involved in high voltage projects, MEP building services installation for residential, commercial and industrial projects all across the country. Our services are available nationwide wherever excellence in electrical and mechanical services are required. With decades of experience, we are your one-stop shop for quality electrical and mechanical installations and maintenance. Be it home or office, our qualified engineers are geared up and ready to meet you at the very point of your needs. Dason Nigeria Limited, building confidence, delivering value.
One of Nigeria's most reputed professional engineering consulting firm, Otis Engineering Limited, established in 1987 with a vision to be the leading and most trusted engineering firm in Nigeria and beyond, a specialist in project management and technical services in the heavy industrial and infrastructure sector like power generation, transmission and distribution, machine tools, iron and steel, oil and gas, petrochemicals, automobile manufacturing and many other auxiliary engineering sectors.
Thank you very much. We decided to lay that background, our distinguished guest speakers, and because we wanted us to understand that the local content is the way to go in Nigeria. From this in Nigeria, employing Nigerians and doing yeoman's job, to OT's engineering, doing exceedingly well with local expertise. And then to CDK, all the materials there that you've seen are 95% locally sourced in terms of raw materials. So which means we can grow within and build our technology going forward. The more we invest, just like Engineer Ogubayo said, the more we invest in our human capital, the more they'll be able to do in terms of their operations and also contribute to the corporate organization. This has brought us to the masterclass section of this particular conversation. And I am very, very delighted to be able to have, because it took a while for us to all be able to get him. All of us are aware that he's a Royal Highness. He has to take care of the subjects in Anambra State, and also be able to ensure that OT's engineering is actually running on a very good footing. Engineer Otis has been a supporter of Inside Business for so many years, and he has also been doing a lot for Nigeria. We would like to take from the experiences and a case study as to how the opportunities in the engineering industry has evolved over the years and where we are headed in the next decade. Engineer Otis, thank you very much, sir.
Actually, we want to talk about what kind of philosophy has guided us in our journey as a professional engineering firm, right from May 19. I have tried over some period now to and Otis Engineering had been able to do over these years. And this can be just encapsulated. I look at it as that engineering, which is engineering education, and then in practicing, by regulations about that profession. And these three, engineering education, practice, just about engineering person, know how with the right set hands-on in practice, with the requisite laws and regulations in place to guide and protect the application of knowledge and skills to solve problems of humanity in an ethical, safe, environmentally standing. Those who are in that practice would have to do despite changing circumstances. And circumstances certainly will have to. And we also are faced, of course, with trying to get, because Otis Engineering at a point had over 120 engineers. And it is, of course, quite some work to select the people that you need to fit into the kind of assignments that you have to do. And for us, a well-trained graduate engineer, we expect in practice to be able to operate and innovate beyond current practices and take responsibility at a strategic level. And we also use technologists and technicians and craftsmen to carrying out the engineering assignments. And basically, we know that in schools in Nigeria, engineering, all have civil engineering, all have electrical, electronic engineering, process engineering, But these days, Nigeria also is advanced to the level where we have biomedical engineering in some universities, notably Kwara State University. You have computer engineering in many places alongside computer sciences, and we have mechatronic in some of the institutions. These are all taking root. So I have tried trying to train them, give them additional training that will make them fully based on, this is what I call modeling and definition of engineering, and the of the sciences to humanity in an ethical, economical, safe definition. Means that basically what problem solving, which in itself is become a field, and there are very many modules of training available, and we try to get our engineers to go through that. And next, very important for us is ethics. From that definition also, the engineer is supposed to do his work ethically, and so we take the matter of codes of engineering ethics very seriously. All our engineers have to first and foremost go through the code of ethics as issued by the council for, and then there are different codes of ethics that we try to get people to go through, because there are, depending on the disciplines, you'll find that they differ, sometimes slightly, but as engineering valuation, for example, and cost engineering. Of engineering valuation is that you do not do work to be paid on percentage. In cost engineering, if you are doing a job that entails helping a client to reduce costs, it is perfectly allowed in cost engineering that you can be paid to reduce. And then in computer engineering, their own ethics also are quite peculiar. And those who are working in that area need to also have proper appreciation of that. And then the very important matter of economy, which engineers tend to, sometimes slightly, but sometimes also drastically, as one can say, in the fields of engineering valuation, for example, and cost engineering. One of the basic canons of ethics of engineering valuation is that you do not do work to be paid on percentage basis. But in cost engineering, if you are doing a job that entails helping a client to reduce costs, it is perfectly allowed in cost engineering that you can be paid on the basis of the cost you reduced. And then in computer engineering, their own ethics also are quite peculiar. And those who are working in that area need to also have proper appreciation of that. And then the very important matter of economy, which engineers tend to overlook. The engineering students would need to take courses in cost engineering and engineering appraisals and valuation. And of course, we assume that most engineering students already take courses in engineering economy. But of course, we have come across some who said they didn't take a course in engineering economy. It's an issue that we should really take up with both COREN and also the CODET, the deans of engineering and technology, to make sure that every department of engineering or discipline of engineering has to make sure that their students take the course in engineering economy. But additionally, they should also have appreciation of what cost engineering is and engineering appraisal. And it is the absence of these elements that really make our engineers drop off in the race to the top, in various organizations. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line in business is economic. And somebody who doesn't quite appreciate that is likely going to be edged out by those who have not done engineering, but they are conscious about the economics of the business that they are into. And next is safety. The question of doing work safely and creating products that are safe to use. Every engineering student and practitioner ought to have appreciation of safety engineering. And we do organize such courses for our people from time to time. On health and environment, there is need for engineers to have appreciation of occupational health with sprinklings of clinical or hospital engineering or even biomedical engineering, because engineers also will have responsibility for sustainability of the planet. We encourage engineers to take courses in environmental engineering. And they should be trained, both those in the schools and those that are starting out life with us, how to analyze problems and provide solutions in a rational, systematic way. And we try to remind ourselves that the engineering mindset ought to be to define a problem, identify alternatives, select the best solution, and then implement. So our engineers, we try to encourage them to understand the problems of human development and sustainability, and need to be able to positively affect them with their engineering knowledge. Of course, we know that for some time now, since a few years, the United Nations has been very concerned with the Sustainable Development Goals. And sustainability is also what both the FIDIC and WFEO, WFEO is World Federation of Engineering Organizations, and FIDIC is the International Federation of Consulting Engineers. They have been quite concerned with the issues of sustainability. And in looking at the technical content of the training program that we subject our engineers to, we try to introduce elements that will provide the tools that help engineers to become entrepreneurial leaders in both business and politics. I say in both business and politics because in bureaucracy we already are overpopulated there. But it is in business and politics that we need to make sure that we have the right dose of representation at each time, and then also try to get particularly our people who are in politics to understand what it is they are there to do and what makes them different from others in politics who are not engineers. Now I'll talk about engineering practice. How do we see engineering practice in notice? We know that most people think in terms of consulting engineering as the only avenue of engineering practice. And this, we realized a long time ago that this is a distortion of the correct engineering practice situation, which in addition to consulting engineering should also have these other areas like engineering contracting, manufacturing, engineering services. Under engineering services is a whole lot of fields of specializations with a lot of opportunities for engineers who want to dare and go into those areas, like inspections, testings, and certifications, laboratory services, drilling, logistics, etc. And if we might just even look at, say, the electrical area, the electrical sector, you'll find that there are too many areas of this engineering services that include something like power systems studies, grid studies and stuff like that, relay coordination studies, SCADA and communications engineering, inspections and testings. In fact, it is inspections and testings that is the main work of NEMSA, Nigerian Engineering and Management, Services Agency. Their work, if you go through the law, is inspection and testing of various electrical systems. And of course, we have a problem with NEMSA. I actually helped them to go to put their case across in the National Assembly. I think it was 2014 or thereabout. But I had, even as early as that stage, been telling them that the old-fashioned method of bottling up all the opportunities in an agency or a sector to those who work in that agency is totally unrealistic, because you cannot imagine that in one agency you are likely going to have enough of practitioners that are going to carry out inspection of all the electrical works that are going on in the country. And so there ought to be an opening made in the law for them to use consultants or specialists or experts that can help them. We have the same problem in the Industrial Inspectorate also, where which is an agency of the federal government that takes care of engineering economy, cost engineering, and engineering evaluation in industrial undertakings. In that place also, they just bottled up everything to the director and his inspectors. And all efforts that have been made to open that up so that they can also employ consultants to assist in carrying out these functions has not quite succeeded. And so you'll find that all those who have worked there as either directors or inspectors and who have experience in that type of work, they do not have the opportunity to be called upon to do any work related to that sector. So this is something that I expect Nigerian Society of Engineers and also COREN to work on, to make sure, if need be, to change those sections of the laws to make it possible for experts from outside to come into those agencies to do engineering services work. Then, of course, you have operations and maintenance activities. You have some companies, even right now, that are doing this work in power plants and gas metering stations for the Niger Delta Power Holding. I hope that also the GENCOs that have been privatized, that they should also try to give opportunities to other people to do such O&M works and use that to at least advance their professional careers and also earn a living. Failure analysis also is engineering services. Calibration and recalibration is in engineering services. Geotechnical services, health, safety and environment, environmental impact assessment, power systems protection, control and metering. These are all engineering services that are possible for experts that are out there, to get commissioned to do those kind of things. Energy efficiency, laboratory analysis, pipeline integrity assessment, turbine inspection, renewable energy studies, alternative dispute resolution, and so on and so forth. And I just have taken time to talk about it because when you even look at the regulation which Current has brought out on these areas of engineering services, when you look at engineering services, one will just think it is such a small thing, but it is so big and so full of opportunities that I encourage people to look into it. We did so in Otis, and I can tell you we have done quite a lot of, over the last 30 years, we have done so much in inspections, testings, and certifications. We have done grid study, we have done SCADA work, we have done a lot of these kind of things, and these are areas that are open to people to get into. Then, of course, there is the maintenance, fabrication, and repair. I mean, it's simple as it sounds. Our people should be able to look into such areas and even establish some line of products that they can be working on. And this will not depend on whether there's contract or there's no contract. This will depend on the diligence and proficiency with which such a person does this. So I have spent quite some time talking about engineering services, and I believe that we should all try and focus attention on that. In fact, I'm happy that I saw Abaki of the source, Engineer Lumuyiwa Alade Ajibola, Fellow Academy of Engineering and President of APBN. Abaki is somebody who has done a lot on engineering services because he runs one of the most equipped and appropriately equipped engineering laboratories for testing of materials. And this is something that is open to all parts of Nigeria, because in every state there should be at least a firm that is handling testing of materials, doing slope test and stuff like that for concrete work and for metals assaying and the rest of them. It is something that is open to everybody, and we should please continue to look at that. Now, I had talked about maintenance, fabrication, and repair. That is open. It's open to a lot of people. And in fact, the most lucrative area for engineers is in vendoring of machinery and equipment and engineering materials. It is the most lucrative because, I mean, that is where the money is. If you ask me, where there is least money is in consulting, and where you have money more than in all the other areas is in vendoring. If you hear that the state government is buying 500 kVA transformers, and then it is being supplied by a fisherman, that's a disaster. So our people in various places they find themselves in this country ought to look at this matter of vendoring of machinery and equipment. So having talked about all that, I must also talk about the special problems of manufacturing in Nigeria. In fact, in the last 3-4 years, the president of the country had given the green light to the fact that the philosophy guiding the economic development of Nigeria should be that what NSC has been saying many years ago, that we should manufacture what we consume and we should produce what we need. And in fact, that is the guiding principles or guiding philosophy for all these countries that have developed and have become industrialized. It is by seeking to produce what they need and manufacture what they consume that they became industrialized. But here, we have not really backed that up with the necessary enabling laws and policies that will make it easy for people to go into manufacturing much easier, and then manufacture the things that we need, and then our people will be able to buy them, and not the manufacturer facing unnecessary competition from free importation of the same things from all over the world. Now, also in vendoring engineering, non-engineering professionals are principally the vendors for the procurement of engineering products in Nigeria. And of course, the effect of that is that there is poor safety consideration and misguided selection of products and services that lead to avoidable failures of these products or projects or services, and quite often it leads to fatalities. So it is imperative to develop policies to regulate point of sales of engineering materials and products, codes and standards, effective regulations, monitoring, control and enforcement, and public enlightenment. The procurement of all engineering products and services should be regulated and assigned to only accredited engineering vendors and valuers. Now, the Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria has started on this path because they have brought out the first set of regulations to deal with, the various services or careers engineers will be into. And one hopes that when that is being tested, more ideas will come out and more regulations are going to come out to very specific areas of the economy. Now, the consulting and contracting engineering and engineering services sectors are also awash with non-professionals. And we have looked at it for quite a while, and we believe that the Nigerian Society of Engineers and current should collaborate with financial institutions like Bank of Industry to set up equipment leasing companies that will help to mitigate associated funding problems for startups in construction. And we should continue to advocate that there ought to be political will to give Nigerian engineers jobs so as to train the young ones, and mentoring of young engineers in engineering workplaces will continue to encourage that to drive home continuity in engineering practice. And there is a need to develop local capacity in contracting, and this may require harmonization of procurement and Nigerian Content Acts. Of course, this just reminds me that it looks like we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for this Nigerian Transportation Commission Act. It seems the National Assembly is at the verge of getting Mr. President to sign that. And that also should open up a lot of opportunities for our people. And once again, I advise engineers and those who are interested in engineering businesses to look at the ICRC laws, and then this NTC law that is coming out soon, to see the opportunities that are there and how to position themselves to benefit maximally from such opportunities. Now, engineering firms should build capacity by availing themselves with the trainings of the Institute of Appraisers and Cost Engineers. We have, of course, been advising higher institutions that cost engineering should be built into their curriculum, assuming that they already have engineering economy, and they should spend extra time to teach our people engineering economic analysis. That will help us to remain on top. We'll then have knowledge of sectors, but also we have the ability to do economic analysis on these sectors, we will find out that we'll do it better than the people who do not have engineering background. Now, I mentioned that we are going to concentrate on engineers in business and engineers in politics. And we know that engineering impacts the health and vitality of a nation or a country more than other professions. And our engineers play roles that transcend the realm of knowledge and technology. And worldwide, the convergence of engineering with public policy has been on the increase. And a few years ago, we had adopted close marking with the National Assembly. And we observed, of course, that virtually all laws that the National Assembly is treating has some bearing with engineering. And in fact, let me just say it here. Last week, the President assented to the new law on companies and allied matters. The President signed it, and somehow many of us didn't even know that that activity was ongoing at the National Assembly. But when I heard that the President had done that, I tried to find out, to get a copy of what was signed, to check how it affects us, because one basic problem we have had with the Companies and Allied Matters law is that when it first came out in 1990, it removed engineer, or it did not include engineer in the definition of valuers. And we had to wage a struggle on that with the Attorney General of the Federation then, Prince Bola Ajibola. And before he left for the World Court, he actually got that law amended to include engineers in the definition. And that was in Section 137, you know, at the time, and remained in Section 137 until this last week, when the President signed the new law. And so I had to go through the law to find out what has happened to that. And I saw that what they did was that the section that dealt with that definition of valuer had been moved from 137 to 162. But engineer is still there. So we thank God for that. And I urge Mr. President of Nigerian Society of Engineers to please be on the alert, because it is, I mean, I don't know how it happened. Maybe it is this lockdown that made me, I didn't know that they were doing some work on the Companies Act. Otherwise, I would have shown interest much earlier than that. But thank God we survived in the provision of that. So all developed economies recognize that the business, competitiveness, health, and standard of living of a country are intimately dependent on engineering. And we must continue to remind the government and the public that engineers are ideally suited to public policy, and also to remind our engineers who are already inside the government and politics, and they will continue to explain that engineers are trained to analyze problems and prefer solutions in a rational, systematic manner. We have to keep shouting it on the rooftop that engineering mindset is to define a problem, identify alternatives, select the best solution, and then implement it. Now, engineer as a politician, the engineers really are ideally suited to advocate feasible solutions to problems faced by the society. And if also they are involved in legislating the relevant technological solutions that will result in maximization of public welfare and minimization of the negative impact of technology. Our country needs to appreciate that the engineer is entrusted with two key attributes that are critical to public policy and politics. And these are the training of critical thinking on solving problems, together with training as to the very activities required to develop and sustain a good quality of life, and the moral and ethical obligations that they vow as part of their professional status to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Now, the engineer as politician also has ethical advantage, because engineers have an obligation to further the interest of humankind. The role of politician is a perfect fit for him. But I must say here that as engineers, we have done well in politics. If between 1976 and 2020, we have had an engineer become president 3 times. We have had scores of engineers becoming military governors in both, becoming governors in both military and civilian dispensations. We have had many engineers in the House of Reps and in the Senate. In fact, between 2015 and 2019, we had 11 senators out of 109. And that is, in the American Senate, there are times you don't have even one engineer in the Senate. But our problem is that the people we have that go to that Senate or go to the House of Reps, do they know what they are supposed to do there? Not just as senators, but as engineers who have become senators. I think it is the responsibility of the Nigerian Society of Engineers to try to also organize, some retreat or something for engineers who are in the National Assembly, to tell them what is expected of them, not just what engineers expect of them, but what humanity expects from them as engineers who are in Parliament. So the Parliament naturally has responsibility for technology assessment economy-wide, and that is an area where the parliamentarians ought to use engineering experts, consulting engineers, and those into engineering services to help them to shape policy and to shape legislations. Well, engineers normally have superior knowledge of current scientific issues compared to career politicians, and this will be very useful in legislative debates on different engineering-based sectors and technological issues. On this note, I think I'll just say thank you for listening. I have had problems with my system here, but I hope you at least got the gist of what I tried to say. God bless you all. God bless CED. God bless all engineering and other professional practitioners. Thank you.
I think towards the end of your presentation, some of the key challenges of going forward, you threw to the desk of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. One of which is the fact that the National Assembly should be able to do something. In other words, the engineers that are currently members of the National Assembly, in terms of possible, law implementations. You also spoke about the fact that there are so many engineers, or about 3 or 4 of them, that are currently governors in various states. So you've talked so much about so many things. Earlier on, You talked about the issue of safety, human capacity development, sustainable development goal, the structure in this masterclass, which is very key, that Otis Engineering put together to ensure every project is delivered on time at precision. So, which is very key to why this masterclass is important. And I'm glad that the NSC president is here. Some of the challenges you have thrown on his table, we want to believe he will talk through that so that we can actually have a Nigerian that we call our own, where the professionals, the engineers, takes ownership of our infrastructure development. As we speak now, Nigeria is still searching for infrastructure reality. We will understand the going back and forth of the agreements or the loan agreements with China is still a subject of debate. Whether it's the project they are going to take over if we don't pay, but whether it's the Nigeria itself, some people don't even understand it. But then, as engineers, there are clauses in engineering procurement, international standards, in terms of loan facilities and the project execution. We will have Engineer Mika Eze talked about the procurement in a few minutes. However, let's go to the president of NSC to let him voice to this. I would like to say a big thank you to Engineer Otis for actually taking us through those procedures and taking on the NSC president and asking him to take ownership of the profession. Thank you very much, sir. Engineer Babagana, well, you have the floor. We're waiting for, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
First, let me recognize the presence of the president of Koren and all my presidents. Let me be very specific here. The four speakers have spoken, and they have spoken very well. And I don't want to repeat what they have said, because time is well spent. I can only identify 2 or 3 things to add to what they have not said. I think that would be the end of my discussion. But for the advices given to me, I am very, very mindful of them, and I'm going to act appropriately. And we are acting on it appropriately already. First and foremost, what I want to say here physically is, the topic is very apt. But the key thing here is, I have had all the theories. Now, the key thing is, let's return back to basics. We have not finished with the basics. And we are thinking of going to nanotechnology. We are thinking of going to the moon. It does not work like this. It does not work like this. All of us are assuming. For me, it's assumption. And for everybody I knew, it's assumption. Because Nigeria is the example. All of us are thinking we are in the 21st century. No, the world is in the 21st century. In Nigeria, we are not in the 21st century. That is the plain truth. Only people who have cleared the basics are at 21st century. We have not cleared the basics, so we are not at 21st century. That is very straight and clear. We are still battling with hunger. Those who are 21st century are people who have crossed hunger level. We are still battling with light. Those who are 21st century have crossed over life issues, power issues. So don't even bother yourself thinking of what is happening. No. You are going too far. You are going too far. And there are so many opportunities where we are. There are so many opportunities. So many opportunities. Most especially with the coming of this COVID-19. The opportunities are many. There are many. In fact, there are just too many. I kept telling everybody, there's nothing like I can't now. Nobody can tell me I can't. No. That what I can't should be written in our diaries. Everything we can do, everything we can. Take example, or understand it from this perspective. When COVID-19 came, France closed the sale of all its medical facilities to the outside world. America did the same, including China, the grandfather of COVID-19, did the same. I don't want you to use your common sense because common sense is not working in Nigeria. So in this place, what we are using is use your engineering sense. What does it mean? It means they will not produce for you what you want to use until they secure their people. In essence, and in engineering, we said impliedly, the meaning is if other people like you die, until we save our people, we are going back to you. That is the engineering sense in it. Because I don't want anybody to tell me common sense. Common sense is useless sense. It has never worked anywhere. What works is engineering sense. That's the only thing that works. So your engineering sense will tell you France, Germany, including China, refuse to sell in, export out their medical equipment to any other country until they have sorted themselves out. That tells you they are using their engineering sense. They are not using common sense. Because if they are using common sense, they will still listen to you, and they will also be using it. They'll be giving you some part and they'll be using some part. But they are not using common sense. They are using their engineering sense. That's why they said they have closed their export of this material until when they have sorted internally out. That's when they started giving you aids and what have you. Could they mention about corporate governance? Of course, yes. They are all tied to it. I don't want to go back to all these things. So we need to go back to the basics. There are a lot of opportunities that are bound in the basics. Another missing thing in this discussion was entrepreneurial leadership and skill. Once we return to the basic, everybody is going to earn something. Everybody is going to earn something. Everybody. And I mean everybody. If you are doing pure water, you own it. If you are doing this paper, you own it. If you are doing this my cup, you own it. Whatever we are doing that we want to use, we own it. And nobody says you must be perfect. No. Example now, let me give you a very simple example. These are senior colleagues. They are all my senior president and colleagues. Tell me which contract failed in Saudi Arabia or in Dubai or in UAE. Have you seen any failed contract? Me, I'm still a civil servant. But you that are consultant, a senior consultant, have you heard of any failed contract in UAE? Any failed contract? Tell me. If no, why is it so? Do people in UAE have two heads? And then we in Africa or in Nigeria are having one head? Somebody must answer this question for me. A very senior colleague must answer this question for me. Kule is there, he's listening. All the two Kules are there. Ogumbayo is there. Adebayo is there. They are all there. They are all there. Otis is there. Ali is there. Mekaise is there. Baby Bear is there. So, but it is a deliberate policy of government, of their government, to support their indigenous. Government must deliberately support our local people to grow. It's key. You cannot be bringing some laws that we don't even know how they came in. We don't even know how they came in, and be disqualifying our local contractors and consultants. It doesn't work like this. Laws are meant for humans. They are not meant for people who are living in the moon. They are meant for us here who are living in this country and in Nigeria. So the laws must fit into us. We cannot fit into the law. The law must fit into us. If contract will not fail in UAE, and every contract they start, they complete it, and it's okay, and they put in their locals and people who are living it, you can only give them technical support. And every of their contracts from start to completion, they commission it. Then what's happening in Nigeria? If it's not happening, then there is a fundamental issue here, and all of us must talk to ourselves. Another thing that is missing in the link is attitudinal change. there must be attitudinal change. And from government to individual to all of us inclusive, are we doing what we are supposed to do? We must ask ourselves simple questions. Are we doing what we are supposed to do? I can pick it up now. Last 3-4 days, I had of the appointment of the MD and chairman of Federal Housing Authority, a microbiologist, Federal Housing Authority. And somebody will now come and tell me the NLP president must go and shout before somebody will do the right thing. Is it normal? Are we normal? Are we normal? Do I need to even tell somebody that the MD of Federal Housing should be an engineer? Not only an engineer, should be a civil engineer of high standing. Do I need to tell anybody? Or do I need to go out and be shouting on the television that this motive should be this? Is it necessary? Is it necessary? It isn't. It isn't necessary. It isn't necessary. People who are progressing, they are progressing because they are using the appropriate people in the appropriate place. Anybody, I repeat, any minister who is not is struggling. Look at all the ministers. If you are heading an engineering ministry and you're not an engineer, you are struggling. Go and tell anybody. Go and check it. Go and check it. You are struggling. You are struggling. Go and tell anybody that I said it. You are struggling. And that's why once you are struggling, we are not moving forward. We are not going to achieve anything. We will keep on struggling. We are always assuming the position of America or position of China. No, these are people who have done their basics and their basics are in their right places. They have overcome their basics so they can go to the next stage. And then they will prosper. You keep on prospering. We will reach a stage when you can even put the Minister of Health or the Minister of Justice an engineer, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that level because the processes and systems are in place. Whoever that comes at that time will only key into the system and move. But not in this time when we are in the formative stage. No. No, get it right. No. But people will not ever understand. You go to NDDC, they will tell you the executive director of operations is a medical director. And a whole minister will come out and tell you because most of the activities they are doing there are they are buying medical equipment. How does it flash here? How does it ram here? Tell me, how does it go? How? You go to the FEMA Act. Take the FEMA Act. Google it now. We are all sitting here. Google FEMA Act. You see the position of margin the director of FEMA. It was not stated that a civil engineer should be the MD. What they are saying was a flimsy, any advanced person who is good, ABCD, a high-level manager should be the MD of FEMA. But when it comes to the secretary of FEMA, board secretary, they say it must be a lawyer of 10 to 15 years standing. So who is doing who now? Who is doing who? And you say we are going to move forward. How are we going to move forward? When even the professionals are fighting one another, are going through the back door and be saying all nonsense to your advantage, then how do we move forward? Somebody should tell me. When you talk, they say you are too emotional, you are too ABCD, you are too ABCD. Well, why can't you be too emotional? When shit are not going right? When everybody is seeing it and nobody is talking. And you want all this to be quiet. How? And you want things to work in Nigeria. How will it work? You say your engineers are running up to America, they are running out to England. Why would they not run out? We are saying your best friends are going out. Why would they not go out? Why would they not go out? No, it's high time we sit down and talk to ourselves and say the plain truth. Because as I can see in these pictures that are available here, all of us are at the verge of falling out. All of us are, most of us are at the verge of falling out. We are at our last lap. All of us here are seated, including myself, who I consider I'm youngest among you. I'm seeing. I am also at my last lap. Is this what we are going to bequeath to our younger generations? we have to tell ourselves the plain truth. The plain truth and nothing but the whole truth. If we want to make engineering work, if we want to not even engineering now, if we want our country to work, it's not that we don't have the theories or we don't have we have even the skills are there. How can you dare me and say we don't have technical knowledge? Dare me. I have technical knowledge. I have skills. I have knowledge. Give me the job and ask me. I will give person who will do the job, who will deliver the job for you. Give me the job. I don't have contract. I don't have company anywhere. I'm a civil servant. I don't have any company attached to my name. I'm a civil servant. So I don't care. But if you bring any job I say, any job, I have a Nigerian who will do that job for me. So don't even try to use all this nonsense English. They don't have capacity. They don't have power. In UAE, you will win a $1 billion contract. They will go and bring an indigenous of UAE as the soul that is the person you are going. You will finish the contract. You will not even see them. They will be the one talking to government and doing everything. Before you finish, they will learn everything. You finish, you go. And they know the technicality of how to start the contract and finish it and commission it. You will never hear anything stopped somewhere, something went wrong somewhere, political issues came in, nothing will come in. From start to finish, the way you sign the contract, you must complete it. Where are their contract not failing? Which book are they reading that we have not read that book? Which book? Or which knowledge do they have that we don't have that knowledge? So I don't want to take much of your time. Kenneth, thank you very much for bringing this discourse. Yeah, I appreciate you because I don't want to get too sentimental. My bosses are here. Engineer Rose, that I have not seen her for long. Look at her. I cannot see her on Zoom. She doesn't look for me. I'm not going to get worried. Rose Ibonawa. Yeah. So it's okay. It's okay. We're not going to get sentimental. We'll do what we can do. We'll advocate. We'll tell everybody what she doesn't want to hear. We'll tell everybody to do the right thing. But these are the key issues. Government must deliberately encourage Nigerian companies to succeed. In the process, you build capacity. That means money will come into the hands of the local. Anything less than that, we are only playing the ostrich. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was, well, you said you didn't want to get emotional, but I can see the passion because when Engineer Otis was speaking on the masterclass, he has thrown the challenges to you to bring together professional engineers in the National Assembly, because that's where the laws are supposed to be made or amended or what have you. He has also thrown the challenge to bring governors together who can influence things, who are engineers, and also for you to ensure that we can move forward from point A to point B. And that must be done, because we will continue to talk, but if we don't set an example, nobody will get to know. We do understand that so many projects are going on in Nigeria today. The gas pipeline being laid all the way to Kaduna is by OSAV, Engineer Kwosa. All right, so the capacity is always there. But what we understand is that there is a bit of lobby to get some policies done and to get some implementation or amendments done. I think that is also some of the things that we're appealing to NSC and Koren to collaborate so that we can take ownership of our country. Now, let me recognize Engineer Chief Olumuyiwa Alade, FNSC, FENG, and the current president of APBN, the Agbaki of the source. Engineer Olumuyiwa will recognize you. I would like to also recognize Engineer Dr. Felicia Agubata. I think she was the immediate past president or the past president of APWEN. Let me also recognize here Engineer Samson Ivovi, all the way from Warri, Delta State. We have Professor Oyewusi Ibidapo. Engineer Sunday Obahon is joining us from the UK. Engineer Ladi Oni, Engineer Festus, Engineer Rose Igwanugo. We want to recognize all of you because you see this conversation is very important. If we are going to talk about the opportunities, we are also going to talk about the capacity to take care of those opportunities. Because if there is no capacity, we will not be able to actually take care of the opportunities that present themselves. And that's why we are having this conversation. And this conversation is also being transmitted live on Facebook. And we are ensuring that we are reaching a lot of people. And then the program itself will be on air sometime and on our publication. But now, let me also recognize Engineer Nena Ansah is talking with us is joining us from the United States. She will also be speaking on behalf of Green Earth and talking about the structural hydro engineering. But before I go to her, I would like to ask Engineer Emeka Eze to speak. I'm putting him on the spot because I didn't tell him before, but I know that if you call him anytime, even if it's asleep, he can talk to the subject of procurement, especially in engineering and in Nigeria, because it was the foundation, part of the foundation of the budget office. The procurement office at the presidency, and then he rose to become the Director General before he retired. So let him speak to the issue of is procurements a hindrance, or the procurement policy a hindrance for the participation of Nigerian professionals in engineering projects. If you can help us to speak to that, Engineer Emeka, the policy.
Thank you, Festus. Thank you, my presidents, the Agbaki of the source. I can see Professor Dibabobe and my brother, Royal Majesty Otusanyej. I'm the president of Society of Engineers. I missed it from the beginning, and before I get to that, I will just talk briefly, make comments in relation to all the comments made by the various speakers. Kunle talked about business plan development, and you begin to, let me start even from Professor Uche, who represented the current president, and he went round. I had a question for him, which is not for him to answer now, but for us to contemplate over. One is that, what are the training regulations that will ensure that we produce engineers who will innovate rather than those who are able to cite developments in other countries? Because anytime we have opportunity of talking to ourselves, we are quick in citing developments all over what others are doing and the innovations coming up. We'll be asking ourselves, are we producing engineers who are going to innovate and then take products into the global market? At what point do we come when Americans will be using facilities and products or software developed by Nigerians? Until we get to that point, we're only turning ourselves into consumers of technology rather than partakers in development of technology. And so Kunle talked about business planning development, and he began to ask how many engineers understand what a business plan development is. Really, if you run a business and you don't know how to do that. So our training have to be that people must talk about how to develop business plan. We talk about it, but do we really have people who can do that? I listened to the commercial about supply and installation of equipment, and I noticed that all the equipment that were there are all imported. Even when they are sourced locally, some other person is importing them. And so, to which standard are we issuing certification for others? Have you been able to develop any standard that to which we are certifying our people? And that is part of the responsibilities of Koren, the new law, that the Koren has the responsibility to develop codes and standards for products and training, and then go through that. And then we talked about engineering opportunities in emerging practice and digitalization transformation. Yes, very good. Ingenuity is defined engineering classical, as we all do know. The question will be asking us, to which extent are we contributing to finding solutions and dividing new solutions to our many problems that keep arising? Then, from what Otis is saying, from all his comments, I believe that there's need for a postgraduate training school, similar to law practice or medical school, where graduates of all engineers will be put in one bracket and taught those things that he talked about. Because if you have engineering practice, we tried to do that at NSC. I started it, Engineer Ajibola took it, and then somehow we forgot about them. But I think that the new law of Koren has now emboldened them to set up an engineering school, postgraduate engineering school, where all these things we talked about will be taught as a part of our practice. Then, Otis, from what he said, gives me impression that he wants engineering unbundled in such a manner that we do not shortchange ourselves. This is a copy of the Nigerian content law being provided. They just sent it to me to review and make comments, and we suddenly find out that set of engineers bundled into one in a council of 20, and we have only one voice. And all every other person that when we want to go and talk about, we have the miners, we have the Lekan, we have all manners of people in that, and the NSC just one voice, as big as we are. Meaning that so long as we continue to pretend as a civil engineer is the same thing as an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer or an agricultural engineer, and budging ourselves into one institution, so long as we'll be we'll be missing the opportunity that is inherent in a democracy, which is about numbers. As big as we have the same vote. It's a small association that have membership of 2,000, but we're not leveraging on our number because we are budging ourselves into one society. So there is no law, really, that excludes any agency of government from using external consultants. No law. But however, when people are in positions of authority, they think they will remain there forever and try to mass authority to themselves. So what is talked about directors in the inspectorates not using external people, perhaps what we need to do is to encourage those who are directors, remind them that they will retire. If they begin to use others who have retired, then when they leave, others will use them. But it's not happening so. So I said that no law excludes that. And then he said about certification. Have we developed the standards to which we want people to be certified? That is a question that we may not need to answer now. Then I may, at this point, perhaps use the opportunity to say that it's not all that bad as we've said. I remember in the power sector, and since nobody has said it, because it's a privileged information, I don't want to say it because some of the beneficiaries are here. When the procurement law started, I must give it to I must take that credit if nobody wants to admit it, that it at my own insistence that for you to be given a job, consulting job, you must be registered or certified by Koren or Akon or Kobon. So we collaborated, and in the process strengthened the regulatory authorities and made them have so much money they never had, brought them back into budget. But of recent, when stories are being told, those aspects are being underplayed, right? I also know that in the power sector, all the foreign firms that had to do job with us were forced to collaborate with local firms. And all the local firms who are, all Nigerian firms who are operating today in the power sector, and some of them are here, will attest to that. That by the time the foreign firms left, then they took over. And that is the way we're building capacity. Because the procurement is normally a tool for national development where you insist that people must collaborate with international firms. Because really, come to think of it, the knowledge we've gotten are knowledge that are alien to us, so to say. Because this knowledge is not ours. So we are trying to be like them. So at the procurement level, the law provides for marginal preference for local firms. But the problem is that even within the local industry, you can't just pick a job and give to XYZ. Because in the local people, you may have about 20, 30 Nigerian consulting firms who are qualified. So how do I give one out of the 20? You must subject it to some level of competition to ensure that even the local people also get the jobs done. So I must say that the procurement is not a hindrance to anybody participating because the law is clear. Even this law that I've been asked to review has removed a lot of regulatory powers of the Koren. And if you do not take time, by the time this law is passed into, then Koren will be struggling to find its space again into the engineering sector. So the only thing I can say is that the political content of our engineering, of our governance structure in the country is a challenge. That's the truth of it. If somebody says, oh, because I'm an engineer, therefore once I get into National Assembly, you call me and then I begin to listen to you. Yes, it sounds good, but then somebody will ask you, how much did you contribute to my campaign? They would rather listen to the man who voted for him. Most of us at their level, we don't even put our money, we don't participate in meetings, we don't submit proposals, we don't even submit ideas. So what I think my take on this is that in as much as we have engineers, NSC, from the money we make after we finish our project, we can set aside some money for lobbying all over the world. If you want something done, you lobby. Lobbying is not the same synonymous with bribery. No. Lobbying means advocacy. Somebody who will be going to National Assembly, talking to people, telling them that this, if you put this clause, is not there, if you put this clause, is not there. Most of the legislations we have now have exclusively removed engineering from most of the positions. But when you look at because lawyers craft these laws, when they have opportunity, they will create a position that clearly states that the position will be occupied by a lawyer. And so when you get to that position, your hands are tied, you can't do anything. But because money is involved in engineering projects, and because we do not show much interest in when laws are being made, we allow that to happen, and they put an omnibus clause that will allow anybody to become anybody. And that is the problem, because we don't show interest in when laws are being made. I've just showed a typical example. Later we share with the president of NSC of all the many clauses and the Koren that will remove even the regulatory powers of Koren, and then we'll be struggling with that. So then we have underplayed the role of corruption. When people find themselves in public office, it becomes only source of money. And then they're not even discreet about it. They flout it in a public gathering to suggest that, hey, everybody knows how much you are earning. Everybody knows how much you are worth. But you are displaying money or wealth that suggests that you're not known to have had any farm or any company. And then these people use their position and confer undue advantage to themselves by awarding contract to their own firms, competing with the private people who, and that is unfair. And there are about people who even participate in our programs and all the time. I'm privileged to know because I know them. I have access to all the information. But I won't use privileged information against them. And so if you're asking me to go and be an entrepreneur, and I see somebody flouting wealth, and the only source of his livelihood all along is that he was in public office, why should I be an entrepreneur? When the person who I know started career as a level 8 officer and ended as a director, and he has more money, has more assets than somebody who has been an entrepreneur for 30 years. What would be an incentive for me to be an entrepreneur? I would rather struggle to join and be like that person because he's a role model. Whatever he did there to be like this, I want to be like him. So the encouragement to be an entrepreneur is not there when people flout ill-gotten wealth through public office. That is my own. That people cannot be, because I have had to challenge people. Say, hey, even doctors, go and be this. They say, what about this person? What about this person? Look at his facility, look at his facility. What was he? Is he a director, or even some of them not up to director, assistant directors here and there, and look at all the things they have. So why should I be an entrepreneur? So procurement is about achieving value for money. It is not about sentiments. The way that if I'm sick, I don't look for my brother who is a doctor. I don't look my trans man who is a doctor. I look for a doctor who has the training and capacity to cure me, irrespective of where he's from. And that's all we're looking for. The danger of trying to emphasize on Nigerian indigenization effort is that Nigeria will extend it beyond that. When it comes to Nigeria, somebody say, this thing is from Ogun State, or if you're not from Ogun State, you cannot do it. Or when it comes to Ogun State, you say, if you're not from Iremo, you cannot do it. We might carry these things to an extreme level that even those of us in Nigeria and Abuja will tell us we're not from Abuja, we're not entitled to get a job. We have to, when you come to Abuja, say, you're not in Amak. It has to be for people from Amak. So we have to find a way of balancing all these things. The need to get our people involved, no doubt. Everybody wants that. But we also know that the technology we're advancing, it doesn't belong to us. We should find a way of ensuring that competition throws out people. Because competition is the only way where nations develop. Competition. If I make money without working, I discourage others who want to work from working. You have a lab, you invest money setting up a lab, and nobody patronizes you. But somebody says, before you can do that, you must do that. Somebody who has the privilege of sitting across a table like this to approves a document without ensuring that the lab result is added. Is there any law there? It doesn't require any law. It is about the character of us, and the ability of Koren and NSC to discipline our members and discipline them publicly, not inside the house. We should find a way of disciplining our members publicly, so that those who are left will be discouraged from doing that, and those who are inside under pressure, their guys will tell him, God, did you hear what happened to this person? I don't want to be debarred. When they debar lawyers, they make it public. And so when you're talking with a lawyer and the other say, I don't want to be debarred. My profession says we cannot do it this way. I want a situation where our engineers will begin to say, even when you are given instruction by your superiors to do the wrong thing, you put back, you don't talk back to your boss, but you put it in writing, sir. This is against engineering ethics, right? But do you know what will happen if you do that? Your colleague, your subordinate, your next in rank, who wants to take over your position, will go behind and sign off, and the next day you are transferred. So these are things that reality on ground that we must work to address. So finally, this is to tell you that there's nothing about procurement that delays any project. It is lack of our understanding of what procurement is all about process, about developing can you imagine somebody waking up and say, I want to do a road project, no design, nothing. How can you do that? In some civilized procurement takes about 2 years to plan. You have to design first. I don't know how many of you have seen 2019 budget. If you see that, you weep for the country. Because there are no provision for engineering development. It's not there. And if you have no provision for the engineering development, all this we're talking is talk, we're talking. But we must engage in public media discussion. The way we are doing this thing, we should be on television and on AIT channels, discussing it, not abuse anybody, discussing it from intellectual point of view, from facts point of view. I say, this is this. A project, when you vote 8 million naira for a road project, do you intend to do that project? 8 million naira. Or you vote 7 million naira, 12 million naira to buy a car. Do you buy a car for 12 million naira in this under this foreign exchange regime? And these are the facts. Somebody will come on television and discuss. You're not insulting anybody. You are just bringing the facts as they are and telling them, hey, we can't continue to act this manner. Otherwise, we are not going to go nowhere. And it goes on from works to power to environment to everywhere, everywhere. So it's not about, and you'll be surprised. Our engineers are involved. Let us not pretend about it. We are all involved. Those who are in the civil service, those who are contractors, all of us are involved. Because if you go further to dig, your people are there. So it is a question of government not using Nigerian engineers. It's not true. Because Nigerian engineers sign certificates. They were interviewing me one other firm. I said, this NDDC they're talking about, are there no engineers who signed the certificate that they were done? What has the NSC, to me, NSC should do an independent professional audit. Because that's where to start. Summon all your engineers who are there and say, please come and tell us what happened on this project that you say you paid for a job not done. Right? And if you do that, others will know. You'll be encouraging others to say, I don't want to be summoned by professional associations, my own society. So they won't do it. So there's so many things you can do. So thank you, Festus, for giving me opportunity to talk about that. But just to reaffirm that procurement is about getting value for the money that is not available. And you normally will use a process to draw up the most competent person who can be a Nigerian or a foreigner. But the important thing is you want their job done and done to quality. Our problem, to which quality are we building our projects? Have we developed the quality? Have we developed the standards? Have we developed the cost? It is our job to develop the quality, the cost, to standard that you want people to design to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Engineer Emeka Eze. I'm sure all our participants were able to get something from you in terms of the fact that attitude is key. We need to have a thorough attitudinal change in going forward, and meaning that we must release ourselves from this dichotomy, engineers signing projects that are not completed, and in the process somebody says it is a completed project and money is taken. So I believe you have spoken well, and you've also talked about the procurement is about competency. Do you have the competency to procure that project? If you have it, come forward, exhibit it, and the job is for the taking. But right now, it's going to be a lot more easier for Nigerians, but we are beginning to see that all our engineering procurement, we may have to look inward to get it done. Now, before we come back to our speakers to give you their last word, we will take one or two questions. However, I would like to give the opportunity to Engineer Nana answer. Is his structural and hydraulic engineering? So I don't know. He's talking from the United States. So we want to be able to see if you can give us, just 5 minutes as to the opportunities that are available in country from this particular discipline. Engineer Nana answer.
Morning, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. I believe everybody can hear me. Am I correct?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. And thanks for the opportunity to be here with you this morning. It's morning here, just past 8, before 9, whereas in Nigeria and West Africa it's late in the afternoon. Very, very strange. Just to be time conscious, for this program. Glad to be with you, and I also thank my partner, Ms. Harriet, for inviting me to join you this morning. I've been in Nigeria just a little over 20 years. I left Ghana, West Africa when I was 16 years old, left the UK, studied in civil engineering, came to the United States, and also continue and work in the engineering industry. We work with the federal government, US federal government, and many other private sectors. I've been watching and following the way engineering practice here in the US and also in Africa. And I've seen a big difference, wide difference. The reason I still cannot understand why. What that I know and I've studied is discipline. Here in the US and in Europe, I did my internship in Germany. When I was studying in the UK, I worked with a company called W.S. Atkins, very large company. They're the largest civil engineering company in the UK. They pay my school fees when I was studying Coventry University and also Wolverhampton. So when I did my internship in Germany for 8 months in Hamburg and came to US early 2000s, I realized we engineers in Africa, I put myself as African engineer, of course I'm an African, we lack what is called discipline. And I've been listening to some of the speakers that came before me. One of our elder engineer who had the, I think, OTIS or Otis engineering, he was the first speaker, and then the second one with the public sector, and the last one was also a procurement. They all talk about what is needed to be done. But the question is, why aren't we doing it? See, that's the question. I wish I can ask everybody this question. We are all engineers. And let me scale back. This program meeting today, I think we are way ahead. We should not be talking about this. We should be talking about, like one of my colleagues said, back to basics. Let's scale back. Before we're talking about technological, scientific innovation, advancement, we need to go back and talk about being disciplined. We are not disciplined in Africa when it comes to engineering. You see, engineering profession is one of the most important professions, even more important than medicine, medical medicine, or law, or accounting. Most important, engineer, because you see, when you walk down the street, you will see houses are being built, industries, roads, streets. So we cannot live without engineers. I can live without a doctor. I can ask my grandmother to give me herbal medicine. I'll be fine. I can live without committing crime. I don't need a lawyer. But I just cannot live without engineer. We drive on a road. We see bridges. People's lives are in danger. Now I'm going back to what I mean by saying discipline. So now, to be time sensitive, if I'm an structural engineer and I design a bridge and I said to the government, this bridge will cost $100 million. I have no idea to be an engineer, but because President Buhari is my brother-in-law, or Nana Akufo-Addo in Ghana, for that matter, is my friend, my schoolmate, he gave me the project. I sell it to Engineer Harriet to do the project. I take 25%. Now he go and talk to his Chinese friends. And by the way, what I also noticed in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, that if you have to have a meeting, a project meeting, without a color face in it, you will consider lost. Something that I am very much concerned about. It is just not ethical. It's not good. Because in America here, if you are as good as we are, and let me tell you this, we here in the US, Ghana and Nigeria, we stand the best engineering and medicine. We have more doctors here in the US, Nigerian doctors, than any other country in the United States of America. We have more engineers than any other country, Ghanaians in the US than any other country. So what makes you think that if we have to have a project meeting and there is no color face in it, there is no Chinese involvement, there is no German involvement, you can't get a project? That I want you guys to consider that it is just dead wrong. Going back to being disciplined. We are not disciplined. We don't respect ourselves. We don't appreciate ourselves. We don't admire ourselves. what makes you think a Chinese engineer or German engineer is better than a Ghanaian or Nigerian or Senegalese engineer? It is just wrong. So if you have a meeting, we are talking about a project, and we are all Nigerians, and somebody also come and they have half Germans or half Chinese, they are more likely to get a project than we that we are all Nigerians. It is wrong. It is not discipline. Now, going back to what I mean by being disciplined, that I mentioned a minute ago, we are giving a project of $100 million to somebody who has no understanding what engineering is whatsoever. But because he do have influence in the government, he's been given this project. Now he or she in turn will sell it to somebody who also may or may not have any understanding. So by the time you get to the engineering firm, 3 steps. 50% of the project cost is gone. Now, instead of doing a dual carriageway or 2-lane road, we are now going to do 1-lane road. Why? Because the money is not enough. This is something that I have seen a lot in Ghana and in Nigeria. I don't want to call names, but I know one of your governor who came to me here in the US, gave me a project of worth $5 million. He was intended to give me $40 million and give me a check back of $35 million. This is Nigeria. It's insult. It's insane. It is just not ethical. We just can't do this. It can't happen here in the US. But most of you guys, you come to US all the time. You see things are being built. Beautiful, nice. You bring your children to school here. I don't want to talk about politics of engineering. I just want to focus on being ethical, like one of my colleagues just said a while ago, and also being disciplined. We just have to sit back and discipline ourselves. Before we're talking about scientific research, innovation, let's talk about being disciplined first. Let's be engineers, not being political engineers. You see, I did civil engineering. I did economics. I also did political science. The reason why I did this is because I want to understand how government run. So for any reason in the future, when I retire as an engineer and I want to run for office, I can advise my colleagues. This is how engineers work. Engineer is the most disciplined profession, the most disciplined profession in any sector. More disciplined than doctors, more disciplined than lawyers, more disciplined than accountants. All these 3 industries, they can lie. But engineer, you cannot lie because it will catch up on you. If I lie to build a bridge, only time will tell. If I lie to design a drainage, only time will tell. So you see, I just want to cut the whole thing short. But what I wanted to emphasize here today, as far as this topic is concerned, is let's talk about being a disciplined engineer. Let's stay focused and let's be honest to ourselves and to our community, because you see, our people rely on us to drive down the road. When you and your children are driving on a bridge, you have no idea how this bridge was constructed, how it was designed, nothing. All you want, you drive across, you're gone safely. Imagine you get to the middle of the road, the bridge, and the bridge collapses. Now you're going to see who designed the bridge, the engineers involved. So you see, if you are an engineer, please, I'm appealing to you all, my fellow Nigerians, Ghanaians, Senegalese, Congolese, Togolese, Zimbabwean, whatever, whoever is on this forum, sit back, go back to the basic, and discipline yourself. I don't want to take bribe to do my job. It is not good. I need to be honest. If I am qualified to do what I'm doing, I don't have to go and take money or lie to the government to give me more than an engineer. You cannot be a millionaire. If you're an engineer, you just cannot be a millionaire unless, of course, you're a businessman. But to be a civil engineer, a structural engineer, chemical engineer, electrical engineer, construction engineer, you just cannot be a millionaire by being practiced as an engineer. It doesn't work that way. We are public servants. People rely on us to go to their everyday activities, to drive on the road, to use their houses safely, to go to sleep, not worry about the house being collapsed on them, to drive down the bridge, making sure the bridge is not collapsed. So I just want to end by saying that let us focus and being disciplined and respect ourselves. Chinese engineer is not better than Nigerian engineer, by no means. German engineer is not better than Nigerian engineer, by any means. American white engineer is not by any means more qualified than Ghanaian engineers. I have to be honest with you because I study here, I study in Europe, I work here, I work in Europe. So I want to appeal to my senior engineers in this forum. We are learning from you. So if we are learning from you, then you need to show us what it means to be an engineer, a disciplined engineer, an honest engineer, a true engineer, not political engineer, not corrupt engineer, not engineer who favor China man than a Nigerian man, not engineer who will favor a man than a woman. We really want to be a 21st century engineer by being honest, disciplined, ethical, and of course, conscious engineers that will go to sleep and wake up in the morning thinking about a mother and a daughter and a children and a husband who will be driving down our road. And if the road is not properly constructed by being politically corrupt, by taking half of the project money and do it anyhow, then we have a problem. So, again, let us be a discipline ourselves. Let's draw a line. There are certain things we don't have to do as an engineer. And that is, we don't take bribe. As an engineer, we don't take bribe. We don't inflate project cost. If the project is worth 100 million, it's 100 million. Not 150 million, we are corrupting our government. And in the end, we are only going to use 50 million to do the project. It's an insult to our own community. So I want to appeal to you all again and again. Before we talk about advancement, before we talk about emerging opportunities in engineering, let's talk about being a disciplined engineers, honest engineers, engineers that we know our practice requires us to be honest to our government and to our people. And by so doing, the whole world will come to realize that engineering started first in Africa, not in Europe, not in America, not in Asia, but Africa is where engineering started from, and that it will end right there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate you. I think the emphasis here is discipline from all of us, both government, engineers, and everyone, because that is the only thing and the only one thing that will lead us to taking advantage of the opportunities that are emerging all over the world. If we can discipline ourselves, we will see the opportunities ahead of us. We are about rounding up right now. Like I said, we'll go back to our speakers one after the other, but you can still raise up your hand if you want to. You can signify if you want to make a statement. But I would like to ask the representative of CDK. I also see that Engineer Chief Olumuyiwa would like to speak. He's the president of APBN. So maybe we say, let's take Engineer Olumuyiwa Alade first, and then we ask the CDK man to speak. I also want to recognize that Engineer Mrs. Maya Adetiba is also with us on this. So we have quite a number of senior engineers that will actually be able to flog some of those young ones to be more disciplined. So, Engineer Ajibola, please.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate everyone that has been with us today, that has spoken. Indeed, this is, to me, one of the best discussion sessions on the engineering sector in our country. And with the last speaker, I would say what applies to us applies to Africa. Indeed, a lot that have been said are all appropriate. In fact, Engineer Otis Ayeji mentioned a lot of issues which we must consider in moving forward the engineering sector. Now, Engineer Eze too touched on very salient aspects, and all the others the same way. What I want to really add is to just kind of bring everything together to see a way forward to make so in order to be able to make suggestions on a way forward. There is no doubt that procurement forms the key to the infrastructure development of Africa. Now, what is happening with procurement has to do not only with the political class, but also with our own colleagues in the various sectors. We also need to know that the community, the public, is not very, very well informed about the roles, what should be the role of the engineers in the procurement process. Indeed, what they see is failure. When there is failure, they see engineers. They now begin to think of engineers, but the processes they do not know much about it. So my thinking is that we need to catch up with education of the public. Also, we need to redefine ourselves, our activities in the engineering hub. So what I'm proposing is that we should create a powerful engineering advocacy hub comprising the NSC, the COREN, the ACEN, the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, to develop a master advocacy strategy that we can follow throughout the year, that will be able to reach all the sectors and all the stakeholders in engineering and in the infrastructure, so that we can create a multiple objective benefits benefit accruing high performing local engineering sector. We need to be able to define what the benefits of this would be to our country, in that we will get value for money, we will get less, we will spend less for more infrastructure. Our projects will then, therefore, of course, we should find out how we can influence the fact that if there is no money, there is no need to go into any contract if there is no money. Because in that way, we are losing multiples and multiples money on claims from contractors due to delays and non-payments and so on. We need to, this is a part of the procurement law that we must ensure that we can keep. Now, I am sure that local engineering will lead to lowering of costs. We have already opportunities that have been created in the Executive Order 5. Now, the Executive Order 5, we must take up in this hub and distill it and make recommendations on the implementation, so that it will now engender the actual and feasible performance or participation of local engineers, which will ensure that engineering employment is expanded. I see that Engineer Eze mentioned that we may have an engineering school compatible with that of the legal community or legal profession. Well, so where are these people going to be employed after that? I mean, if Nigerian companies are not doing well, Nigerian engineers don't get employed. I see a lot of Chinese projects on which we have a bunch of technicians and artisans and so on, and they say they have employed so many Nigerians. In fact, in the procurement at works now, all the projects they say they are doing, all the contractors are mostly, they are indeed foreign. And the parts of employment they are projecting to everybody is all these artisans and so on and so forth. And all the engineers are just being shunned off. Now, we must ensure that when we get this hub done, we will now create the best practices and let the public know that this is the best practice. You cannot construct a bridge without designing a bridge. You cannot ask a contractor to go and construct a bridge for you without designing, for instance, and so on and so forth. So we need to do this. And finally, I want to beg that this hub also should look at how we can align our brothers and colleagues in the public sector with the objectives of engineering rather than objectives of individuals. Because if we don't develop engineering, each one of those people will retire, as Engineer Eze said. They will not be able to do anything. They will be useless after. And in any case, it doesn't take long before whatever one has will become useless. The rate of inflation that we're having now. So I think that these ideas, if we can take them on board, they will help us to make, and then we now all contribute towards the implementation of that, of the product of that hub, so that we can take up space in the electronic media, in the print media, and continue with our advocacy, so that in this way, it will be a very legitimate lobby. We will be examining projects that are going on. We'll be examining projects that are being designed. We'll be able to look at everything and have our hands on the engineering sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. The president of APBN and former president of NSC and a fellow of the Nigerian NSC and a fellow of the Academy of Engineering, Engineer Olumiwa Ajibola. Thank you very much. Yes, like I said, we are running up. Let me just recognize the presence of Engineer Mrs. Fumilade Ojelade, president of APWEN. She is also with us this afternoon. Like I said, we are rounding up. I would like to have the representative of CDK. Let me just say that this particular webinar is made possible courtesy of Otis Engineering Nigeria Limited and also CDK Integrated Industries and Dasin Nigeria Limited. You saw some story about their operations earlier on. Why we are bringing in CDK most importantly and Dasin and Otis is simply to tell the story of the capacity of Nigerian professionals. It's from the manufacturing to project execution. So if I have the CDK just for 2 minutes to tell us what you may want to sell up, because we have actually seen the showreel of what you can do, and most of your products have about 95% local content. And most the people working on your factory are also mostly about 95% Nigerian.
Right.
Do I have you? Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I would like to recognize the presence of the president of Current, all of the panel speakers, and the guests. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon to share my business and our operations with you. My name is Abimbola Onogbade. I'm the head brand and marketing communications for CDK Integrated Industries. We are manufacturers of porcelain tiles and sanitary ware. It's important that I make that clarification about porcelain tiles and sanitary ware. Also, without trying to bore us, I'm sure that a lot of professionals present here today know the difference between what type of tiles are available in the market and their offerings and their values and their capabilities. However, it is important for me to state categorically that we are currently the leading producer of porcelain tiles and the only manufacturer of tile sanitary ware in Nigeria. Like the host has rightly said, we're an indigenous business located in Shagamu, Nigeria, in Ogun State. 95%, almost 90% of our staff strength are Nigerians. 90% of our production tools and materials are locally sourced. And so this forum is actually, and the different talks that have been presented today actually created an opportunity for me to state that it is the right time, and this is the period when we should be looking inward and how to build our money to create businesses like this do not leave in the long run. Over the course of this year, over the course of the year that this business has been around, we established it in 2016. We've had our issues with majorly project-based, contracts where the lot and the majority of people here in this seminar feature prominently. A lot of time they make comparison with the Nigerian product in relation to foreign brands, and at the end of the day, even without giving us an opportunity, we tend to go with the foreign brands. But I make bold to say here that our production, our product as CDK Tiles is comparable to any imported brand anywhere in the world, in terms of quality, in terms of value, but most importantly, in terms of price. We're way ahead of anywhere in the world that you're going to bring, your tiles from. The same applies to our sanitary ware also, but we know the kind of rejection, the kind of friction and restrictions we get when we talk to professionals who most often don't even want to look at us, give us that benefit of doubt. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you, given that a lot of times you've been beaten or had some reason to regret when you decide to give a Nigerian brand that opportunity. But as it is right now, with the things on ground, the way the world globally is going, everybody locking into their own system and society and not giving room for outsiders to come in. It's important that we then begin to look internally and begin to have the kind of engagement that will raise the bar. So it's not just you saying, oh, your product is not good, but creating an avenue where you can challenge the brands, the Nigerian brands, to up the bar to meet whatever capacity, whatever specifications that you're requesting for. And I can say for a fact that CDK Industries it's undeniably one of the best styles in the market. Ironically, the tilers, the artisans have more trust in the brand than the professionals themselves. Because today, if you go and ask an average tiler in the market, probably tell you, oh, buy a CDK tile, and if you want quality, buy a CDK tile other than buy an imported tile. So that speaks to even those who we consider not informed, but who have had the experience to use our products, attesting to the quality and the standards that we put into it. So that is that. I'm not an engineer, I'm in marketing, so what I'll be talking about will be pushing my product and ensuring that you see value in what we're bringing to the Nigerian market. And of course, to the profession, when you talk about quality, when you talk about value, when you talk about delivering on set targets, when you talk about projects and all of the visions and the objectives of that project, I can tell you for a fact that when it comes to your tiles and your sanitary ware, CDK is positioned to meet your expectations. For example, we also produce antibacterial tiles. Given the situations right now, we produce for the agricultural sector, poultries who are desirous of having tiles that will not allow for bacteria and other kind of diseases to settle on the ground that they have. We actually produce antibacterial tiles. So you can imagine building an hospital, and you can have that as a value at the end of the day, not just anyhow tile, not just any tile, but having tiles for that hospital that is antibacterial already. So while you're even cleaning, using disinfectants and using all of that, it's like an overkill for you. So all of these are what esteemed customers, professionals like you can have conversations with CDK on a daily basis. It's right here, it's in Shagamu, it's right here. So you can engage our project managers, you can engage our sales team and have conversations around your specifications, your demands. Recently, we won a contract with the Nigerian Content Board for the Niger Basin Commission, and there were specifications that they wanted that they cannot get anywhere except in Germany, and we were able to produce that for them. At the same hotel there, if you go to the lobby, it is CDK tiles that is actually in the lobby, and it's based on specifications in terms of design, in terms of porosity, in terms of feel and look. So these things are available in Nigeria. The latest innovations, the latest technologies are being deployed every single day to ensure that we meet international best, products. And also, we are also aware that a lot of these imported tiles are grade Bs and grade Cs, because getting grade As come at a cost that many Nigerians cannot actually afford. So when you ask for tiles from Spain, Italy, or wherever, they're actually giving you the grade Bs and grade Cs. But in CDK, we manufacture and produce basically 90% of our productions are grade A. It's not that we don't have grade Bs, but we don't produce grade B for commercial purpose. Grade Bs are byproducts of our grade As. So you will not find any grade B in any commercial quantity, unlike our grade A, which is comparable to any grade A tiles you find anywhere in the world. So, like I have only 2 minutes, I'm sure I've spent a bit of that time. So, without the risk sounding repetitive, I make bold to state that we are Nigerian leading manufacturer of the highest quality, authentic porcelain tiles. And I lay emphasis on that term, authentic porcelain tiles, because a lot of other Nigerian tile manufacturers will tell you that they produce porcelain tiles, but they actually produce ceramic tiles and not porcelain tiles. And of course, sanitary ware. So thank you. I don't know if anyone wants to address the contact I'm sure that our host will be willing and
able to share
pass that across to you. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We will share. We have quite a number of over 200 people registered for this. We will be able to share your contacts with them as we are sending in the details of this particular webinar. Thank you very much, Mr. Abimbola from CDK. One of our other partner for this event is Engineer Obosi in Kenya. I don't know if you has anything to say, but if you can signify if you want to say something. But I'm going to want to go to round up this conversation, but I would like to point out what Engineer Ajibola said. This particular Order 5 keep coming up at every conversation, and he has thrown the challenge to the NSC to put together in a room some professional to examine whether this Order 5 is actually working or is not even working. And if it's working, what is the percentage and how do we get it to move from level 1 to level 2? Executive Order 5. Yeah. Engineer Eze has also told us that there's a bit of study being done on the local content acts. By Thursday, they will be opening their office in Bayelsa, a corporate office that costs billions of naira. And then Nigerians possibly as some of the contractors there. The opportunities that are available are also with the LNG Train 7, one of the major supplier of the electrical materials at the place. It's a local company, Coleman. So the opportunities are available. We only need to try to tap into them and come back to tell the story to encourage others. So as we are rounding up now, we would like to say a big thank you to Desi Nigeria. Well, let me ask Engineer Professor Uche to give just 1 minute, your last word for this conversation, especially on the theme.
Thank you very much, the moderator. And I want to say on behalf of our current president, I'm actually overwhelmed by a lot of discussions that I can consider extended or exceeded the topic, you know. So without wasting much time, I want to really look at questions raised by past President Eze. Do we produce engineers that can compete with their counterparts in the developed world? I want to first tell him that we do. With reference to him himself, I know he's schooled in Nigeria and all experience, and he's a star even to the world. You notice also that schooled in Nigeria. I know there are a lot of tidbits that we can say there are challenges, constraints, threats in schooling in Nigeria. But I can tell you from the angle of somebody who has been in educational that we have our own products who may think that are not doing well in this country, but when they go out after this country, they become stars. In UK, in Saudi Arabia, that gives us joy that we are doing something. But that is not to take away some of the new considerations, like outcome-based education that Korean is, employed in educational training in Nigeria. The issue of collaboration with other similar organizations outside this country. We are aware of international organizations and agencies like the Washington Accord. We're also aware that Korea is into enforcement with the new amended act of the regulation. So their efforts are in top gear. I think in some of the states it has been a kind of pronounced that Korea are into enforcement of the law that have to do with the built environment and everything engineering. I want to say that we are not really going to stay aloof and say that we are in the 19th century while the world is in the 21st century. It may not go well with us. Some of the drivers of the 21st century innovations are Nigerians, maybe outside this country. We should take, beat our chest that we are already in the space. All we are saying that we want to see part of that benefit in our own environment. He also raised the issue of developing of codes and standards. I can as well say that while Korean we create a different environment, but I think it is more of those who are practicing. Yes, I know that codes and standards are domiciled in the Nigerian Standard Organization, and people are always going to develop, interest in a particular area, and Korean come using the professionals, the engineers, to give standards. On the postgraduate schools, I think we should put our hands together to see the working of the CCS, the Supervised Industrial Training program that have always been in the can I say the carbon of Korean. As a student, I was told that it had been approved by the federal government, but there's no fund. And this is where I agree with the president, past president that have been talking about lobbying, bringing top most engineers to lobby for some of these issues with the government of Nigeria. Without lobbying, we may not do much. Yes, there are a lot of constraints for us in the emerging digital technology or digital world. We are still suffering from power, electric power, energy, communication. I will have our own corruption threats. All these things is what I can see that, like I said, that as engineers, there's need for us to put our acts together. Let there be synergy. Let senior engineers, past presidents, see it upon themselves, whether there's NSC, whether there's Korean, whether there's ICANN, this is your family. Always feel free to call anybody that can occupy these positions. This is the way we will have to go. And I think anybody that is fighting for his family, because it is not lawyers that can speak for engineers, just like we have said. So we need to actually go in that space, bearing in mind that what is ruling the world of today is digital transformation. Thank you for the audience. Thank you for past president of the NSC. Please, very much. There is a man that has been raising his hand from UK. Okay, if you can give him 1 or 2 minutes.
We will do that, sir. We will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me go to Engineer Ogunbayo. So let's go to Engineer Ogunbayo. Engineer Ogunbayo actually shared the slides with us, and I'm sure he's going to also share with all the participants and all the people that registered for this, and all of them that are also following on to Facebook. We will be able to share that slides also, but he's allowed to share the slides. So, Engineer Ogunbayo, please.
Thank you. A lot has been said. There's a lot to digest. I think this is an ongoing debate.
Yes, sir.
The way I wanted to present my paper was to provoke a discussion.
Yes.
Because we are all ultimately, I'm a businessman, so I like to say, how can I improve my business? And I think that I don't know whether the NSC president is here.
He's here.
No, yeah, okay, but yeah, I sympathize with him because he was very passionate about what he was saying. But my comment really is that whatever is wrong, we are all Nigerians and then we are all responsible. I do not believe that there's any entity that's called government Government is made up of all of us. So it is up to us. I think it was Emeka who mentioned about the people who signed the NGDC certificates of completion. We are all of us are involved. So we must all take a look inside and say, what can I do to make things better? And that's the whole purpose, is that we are all responsible. We all have a responsibility to ensure that we do things right. I remember when I was current president, and I got, I think America was DG of BP at that time, and I got him to give me a list of all the contracts, engineering contracts that had been let. And I think something like 80% had gone to Nigerian consultants. And so when I hear people talk about we don't get work, I had to ask for that so I could convince myself that it was true, but it wasn't. Something like 80% or even more of consultancy that had been led by the federal government at that time went to Nigerian firms. So let us ask ourselves, those opportunities that are there, how are we using them? Many Nigerian practitioners in the oil and gas industry have become phenomenally wealthy only by taking the opportunity that exists in the oil industry. They are all there. It is up to us to ensure that we step back, look at how we do our business, look at how we can improve our processes so that we can take care of the opportunities that are there. When we want to take care of those opportunities and somebody says, no, I'm going to give it to somebody else, then we can complain. But first, let us be sure that we build the capacity internally to be able to take up those opportunities that are there already. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You know, that's a very good way of rounding up your conversation, because the fact is you've given confidence and also laid an example as to the fact that you were able to lay your hand on a document that speaks to the 80% of Nigeria consulting projects during the period of Engineer Emeka Eze as DG of the Bureau of Public Procurement. So which means the opportunities are there. We only need to take advantage of it and go all out there and do what is right. Go forward. You put your foot forward, you will find something. But we can't just sit at home and be complaining. The NSC President, Engineer Babagana, can you just let your last word during this conversation? Yes.
Thank you very much. I think Engineer Kule Ogumbayo has said my mind, and I don't want to repeat anything. What I want to only add up here is the lawyers understood the business because the bar and the bench work together, but engineers do not understand the business. I pray that engineers will understand the business, how the lawyers have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me call on Engineer Mrs. Harriet, Green Arts, Engineer Mrs. Harriet. You have a word for us.
I am privileged to be in this pavilion today. It's a yearning need for us to have, just like the NSC president just said now, that engineers, we should love ourselves. We should understand ourselves. Just like every other profession is, the doctors, every profession we can think about, they have one word, they understand themselves. Pretty well, last year I was in Lagos for a presentation around when the APWEN and the CED has program for female engineers. There was a collapsed building, and it makes me cry when building collapse, because the first question I ask myself is, where are the engineers? Why should a building collapse? Where are our engineers? What are we doing? Is it that, and just like my partner said, we must be disciplined and God-fearing, because if we throw a stone into the forest, If it doesn't come to us, it might come to our children, it might come to our grandchildren. So it boils down to say we should do this work as to God's fear, and also we should do it with a lot of passion. Like I said, passion is what leads. If we have passion for everything we do as engineers, we have passion, we should be able to tell our employers or clients that, no, I can't do this. Please, this is what I can do. I cannot do this. So that is what will make us to be different, and that is what will make us to be who we are supposed to be. But if we keep on corrupting ourselves, deceiving ourselves because of the conditions maybe we find ourselves today, what about tomorrow? I was in Kano one time. The bridge that was just commissioned just broke into two. It was so pathetic. Now the labor, the everything that has come into that effort is wasted. Now there is something I want to cry out to the current president, to the NSC, and to all of us as engineers. I have knowledge in environmental engineer, also environmental management, also civil engineer. Now, there is something that is silent. The need for EIA, environmental impact assessment. Before we go on to do design, before we go on at the beginning of every project that will be standard in this country or in Africa, before we even do anything, let's think about what happens in the next 10 years, next 100 years, next 50 years. And if we advise our clients, they are not taking it, we should allow them. And it must start from the ministries. It must start from the procurement procedures. The EIA must be looked into before any project can stand. I'm talking about technologies. We are the younger engineers coming up. I am privileged to be the CEO of this company. But tomorrow, my children can take it up from me. That will be so many years to come. Now, what legacy have we left for them? What will they lay on? What foundation can they stand on to say, this is what our parents taught us? Let's always think back, because in the next 50 years, most of us are gone. And whatever we have done now, we are leaving this legacy for our children. I, for once, and as an engineer, I'm also an environmentalist. I gave myself all this knowledge so that I understand what is the relationship between engineering and environment and the impact it gives to every project. Now, you don't just have, talking about emerging opportunities. There are softwares that can help us know what will happen to this project in the next 50 years. They are all there. So let's improve our capacity of learning and have some kind of desire. Even if we are heads of all associations, there should be an understanding. Just like the engineer Otis said, if you are an engineer and privileged to be in National Assembly, let us have your impact. I'm sorry to say, if you are the National Assembly as an engineer, you have no impact in both the engineering field and also to your person. I'm sorry, you are mistaken to be an engineer. Just take example, in Borno State, we have an engineer working right now. Look at what he's doing. He's setting examples. He's breaking boundaries. He's doing a lot of things we are seeing. And I think engineers are the people that will change the step that we are moving in this direction. Because if we keep quiet, if everybody keeps quiet, then it will continue. Building will keep collapsing. People will keep dying. Roads are just constructed according to what is remaining. The procurement processes are just too corrupt to be imagined. These things may not come back to us too much now, but what about our children? Well, I just want to round up to say, in Nigeria, in Africa, just like my partner said from the US, we have enough, both in knowledge-wise, both in practical experience. We have enough to teach our children, even our generations to come, if we can be disciplined and God-fearing. in this our engineering field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Discipline and the opportunities are there. Now, let me go to Sunday Obiahon, who has been with us from the beginning, from the UK. So can we just have your take on this?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. It's just a quick some few quick comments I will try to make. I'm a Nigerian trained engineer. I did school abroad, so mine is different from Ansa in the US. I'm Nigerian trained, both from civil to geotechnics. Lectured, then came to the UK in 2000, and been practicing with top multinationals like Jacobs and Arcadis Consulting. So I'm okay. Just as a point of correction, Nigerian engineers are okay. We do train them well, and maybe the difference between the Nigerian trained engineers and UK is exposure more to technology and software, and then they update their syllabuses all the time. And why we don't do that? And I think that does that. Yeah, in terms of emerging market, I know people have said a lot of things, and I look at the procurement process. The difference between a Western world like UK, Europe, compared to Nigeria, right from the inception to maintenance. That's true. You are planning, design, and construction. It takes a long time. For example, for road, yeah, I remember the engineer is saying this day that it takes 2 years for planning, which is true. It takes about nothing less than 2 years from inception to preliminary stage of design, not even design. And in that area, consultants are involved. And when we say consultant, I'm not saying the last week I just said the right thing. The consulting here in UK and in US and other countries is a bit different from that of Nigeria, in that a consultant, when you're talking of consulting firm, you have every branch of engineering, every branch, including environmentalists, including ecologists, those who are not even engineering. So we're all fused together, planning that design for a road project up to preliminary design. The differences is this: while the consultants work with the client, by the time the project is given for tender, the contractor must, I repeat this thing, must have a designer. So you have consultants there too, working with the consultants will design before the contractor construct. And in all cases, even during construction process, there are emerging markets here. There are materials to be produced. If you take example, a reinforced soil slope, the material is geotextile. You could get Nigerians producing that. So there are areas where we can still rely on without going to emerging. There are areas right now which would not actually touch, which we should really be touching and be able to market it. And one big advice I can give to Nigerians is this: many consultants don't work. And the idea of not having multinational or foreign consultants coming into Nigeria is a joke. Because the truth is this: even in UK, most of the consultancy are foreign. But what they do is they buy the local consultants and fuse them together, and it becomes big consultant. What Nigerians should be thinking about, the different consultants now, is to merge to form a big consultant. And what then happens is, even when they're talking of local content, when most of these foreign companies come, they will fuse with the consultants here and be able to then start transferring knowledge. But you cannot compete with foreign consultants when you are just, for example, a consultant with just structural designer. There are no technical, there are no environmentalists, that doesn't work. So try fusing together, become big. And when you're big, you can compete. And when you can compete, then most of these foreign consultants will want to be in partnership. Most projects are joint venture right now. I'm in a project right now which is form of 3 different consultancy group. It's a 6.5 billion pounds project. It's a road project, but they plan ahead in 20 years, what will be the traffic congestion? And when they think about that, we are the planning stage, and it took 3 years. I'm still on the project. It's 3 years now. We're still on planning. We've not got to tender stage yet. It will take, that project will take about 7 years. So, but most of the money is ring-fenced. So once there's a budget, they ring-fence it, and once they ring-fence it, that's what happens. So we must, that opportunity, we should start thinking about such things in terms of our procurement processes. If we do that, that will help us. And codes and standards are very important. The difference between practicing here in Nigeria is adhere to codes and standards. There is no, you can't get away with it. You adhere to that principle, and everybody designed to it. And once they design to that, the idea of building falling, building collapse will will be a story of the past. So we should start thinking about such things and just following processes. And if we do that, it will be good for all of us. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. Cheers.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You see, one very key word I saw you mentioned that caught my attention, and amongst many others, is merger. To play big all over the world, you need to have the competencies and also the size, financials. So merger, and I know it happens even in the US. Some companies move from US to Canada, they form a consortium, and they're able to do projects, and they become bigger all over the world. They move around. So very important. Thank you very much, Engineer Sunday Obehon. We truly appreciate your contribution. Let me take the last word from Engineer Kashim Ali, the immediate president of Koren. Then I will go to Engineer Ikena Ubosi. Engineer Kashim Ali, thank you. While we wait for Engineer Kashim Ali to get ready for his final take on this, do we have Engineer Ikena Ubosi? Engineer Ikena Ubosi is the CEO of DASIN, and I know he's with us here, so maybe can we have Engineer Kashim Ali then? Well, I think since we are waiting for the two to just round up this meeting, now let's have the final words from Engineer Emeka Eze.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Pastors and Moderator. It's been a very wonderful day, and I want to thank all the participants. But just to reassure us that the future of this country depends on us. Any attempt to think that any other person will develop it for us is just like us wishing that it never come, because we have a responsibility to develop this country, and we can just do it by talking. The greatest thing that we can't develop the country by talking. We have to develop the country by doing. And in the doing, we make mistakes and learn. And then character is very key to development of any nation. We must be disciplined, like some people have said. We must have character and then comply to rules. And opportunities abound in this country. That's why I see a lot of Lebanese coming in and making money here, while those of us here are complaining. You begin to wonder, what is it that they are doing that they're doing differently? What they are doing that most of the time when they develop their product, they develop it to quality. During this COVID, I took part in a lot of webinars where they are thinking about how to develop washing facilities and all that. So at the end of the day, what came out of it? Nothing. So we have a lot of, we talk so much, but we don't do anything. So I believe that we are trying to sensitize us to act rather than talk as much as. Let's not talk so much, but let's act more. And then in the process, we learn and then make mistakes. But also know that if we do not have the capacity to develop materials that are normally consumed by engineering companies, how do we control the economy? Iron and steel, the whole thing is related. Iron and steel factory is not working. Virtually all the products we are consuming, we have to get them from out of the country. It's a challenge for engineers to develop alternative materials in our engineering subsector. So many things. We develop a course of standard. It is the responsibility of Koren under this new law to develop codes and practice to which people will have to design. These are many more required that we must constantly be abreast. Under the digital economy, somebody asked a question, have we digitalized even our existing facilities? That's even where to start from. We need to digitalize our existing facilities. In the process of doing so, we learn basic skills that we now can expand and improve upon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Engineer Nkena Ubosi, the Managing Director of DACIN. Thank you very much for joining us and also for being a partner to make this webinar, very important webinar, possible. Yes, can we have your comment on this conversation?
All protocol observed. I want to acknowledge and thank everybody for being part and parcel of this very significant webinar. I'm actually overwhelmed by everything that I've heard today. I want to thank specifically the speakers for all their input. I can't, everything that was said today cannot be overemphasized, because that's the only way we as engineers in this country can grow. That's the only way engineering practice in this country can grow. I've always said, right from when I was my initial interview into the Nigerian Society of Engineers in '96, I've always said that charity begins at home. We won't be taken seriously if we as engineers are not serious. And over the years, we have taken one step at a time, but I see that in the last couple of years, we have also been able to take multiple leaps. And I want to thank the leadership of the Korean, the leadership of Nigerian Society of Engineers, for all the encouragement, for all the work they have done, even though it's not acknowledged, but we know that people are working behind the background. Again, Nigerian engineers are probably the better part of the best brains in the country and in the world generally. I believe very strongly in that. It's all a question of putting them and directing them. I want to thank everybody again. We at DACIN have been here since 1983. It was actually started by my father, Engineer Bertram Ubosi, in 1983. He was also a fellow of Nigerian Society of Engineers, and we have continued the tradition. We have always been into the practice of mechanical and electrical contracting, and it's only gotten better because of the shoulders of our leaders in the engineering industry. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate DACIN and Engineer Ubosi for that thought. I'd like to get a word from the APWEM president, but I know she's still here, but I know Felicia Agubata is still here. Felicia, if you can, while we ask Engineer Kashim Ali to actually also get ready for his last word. I know Engineer Kashim Ali is still with us. Can I have Engineer Dr. Felicia Agubata? You have listened, you have made several contributions at different fora on the opportunities. You have preached them, you have grown capacity. Well, how will you take this to the market and the opportunities emerging?
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I don't think I'm in a good frame of mind now to speak. Actually, on medical emergency with my mom, so I'm inside the procedure room.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I'm sure we'll have you some other time. It's been a very, very, very well spent afternoon. And I think what I would like to say, from our own point of view, CED Magazine will continue to create these kind of opportunities as always, despite the pandemic. And when we get back to the normal lives, we will be able to also continue with our our physical contacting and doing things. But however, we will not leave room and for any other thing to get in between. We will continue to create these opportunities for us to grow. Our last word from here is that from an increase in demand for smart consumer techs to providing necessary environmental equipment, engineering as an industry is being looked at in a whole new light. Careers in the ever popular defense sector are also evolving. Building defense equipment and innovating new technology is still much needed. However, jobs revolving around data intelligence and surveillances are now entering engineering territory. Being analytical, logic-driven, and perceptive are all personages of an engineer in the defense sector. With all the securities that is going on, engineers can provide some solution through different means. When you search, for instance, for the definition of engineering on Google, you will possibly get over 60,000 results that comes up. Engineering is an incredibly diverse industry. If there's an area that doesn't appeal to you before because of your initial thoughts on what engineering actually is, perhaps you should look further afield. It's more about rise in digital careers rather than a fall in traditional ones. I would like to say professionals in engineering in Nigeria, despite the pandemic, please let us survive, let us thrive, and let us succeed. Thank you very much for a very wonderful afternoon. We appreciate you, and we will continue to be your friend and partner from CED Magazine. Thank you very much. We appreciate. Thank you very much.
OTOT Engineering Limited, established in 1987 with a vision to be the leading and most trusted engineering firm in Nigeria and beyond, is specialist in project management and technical services in the heavy industrial and infrastructure sector like power generation, transmission and distribution, machine tools, iron and steel, oil and gas, petrochemicals, automobile manufacturing, and many other auxiliary engineering sectors.